answer questions in, because I'd like to get an answer from all of you. So I will probably start it out as how the layout is on my screen. So we have from left to right on top. On mine is Fargrim, then Ghost, then Solid, then Ravi, then Turd Ferguson there.
Yeah, thank you.
Uh,
Sorry, I should change my name.
Do you
to
want
my
to
actual
use
stream
that
name.
one?
I'll change my name to my actual Twitch name.
Perfect.
Sorry.
Yeah, because I made sure I got all of you in the title.
Yeah, I did the same.
Got all your Twitches on there and everything. So, Adventures Anonymous. Then we've got Velvet. So,
Do that real fast.
I think we'll go in that order. That way, it's simple. Everybody can start from top left and just follow it around. And we'll probably give, maybe 5 minutes per person to answer. At most, if you need a little bit more time, that's fine. Just let us know. That way we can keep kind of things going fluid, and we don't have somebody going on a 20-minute tirade of how somebody broke their campaign.
Okay, good to know. I'm gonna cross that off my notes. All right, now my name should be my name.
Thanks. Yes.
Also,
all right, now we're starting
pretty
with
quick.
Adventures Anonymous now with the change.
Yeah, because
all good.
It's alphabetized.
Yep, it alphabetized it, so that'll work perfectly.
Oh, you meant that?
No, that'll work good.
Order. I was like, wait, what question? There was no question.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get the stream going here.
Yes,
just let me know
go
when
ahead,
to
get everything.
Do the knock thing.
Yeah,
yeah, I'm gonna know how to do. I'm gonna need to know how to do that knock as well.
Yeah, we can get all set up. Make sure you're using to do it. You either have to use Chrome or you have to use Firefox. One of the two.
That you mentioning that's already sending me.
I know you had issues with that last night, Ravi.
Yeah, well, I was also a little bit inebriated, and then trying to do that, and I'm like, why? What's wrong with Edge?
So, yes. I will let you know. My chat is probably going to go quite a bit, and being that I stream multiple different things, I've got a lot of people that stop in with it, so it might not all be D&D related.
Sorry, I'm just trying to match everybody to their names now. So is this like we go live, like a cascading go live, and you go live now, or we just all kind of go when we go?
We can all go live. Yeah, well, once we go live, you can go ahead and start. Since I started a little bit early, go live since we're at the time. Yep, it's 6:15 or 7:15, depending on where you're at, or earlier. But go ahead and go live, and then we'll go ahead and use the knock feature, and we will start from there. I will start to get everybody up, and once I've got everybody, I will go ahead and start the knock feature.
Who are we knocking on?
Well, I will try to get everybody in there. Who all is going live?
I will be in like.
Okay, so we've got Fargrim. I know Solid's already live.
In 3 minutes, I'll be going.
Okay, perfect. Ghost is live. There we go. Fargrim here.
Following all you guys now, so let me pull you guys up. Yeah.
Robbie, are you going back live
No.
or no?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then Velvet, you going live?
No, not tonight.
Oh, that's all right, buddy.
Ghost,
I
did
just
you?
want to make sure I've got everybody that's going live pulled up, and that way we can use the knock feature.
Ghost,
So
did you just go live? I apologize. It's just for me, it's saying you're live, but it's I pull up your stream and it's just a black screen. Just want to make sure
Mine?
my stuff ain't bugging. Yeah.
Done that a couple times on me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just thought I'd let you
Deal.
know.
I am ready to go live.
all right, go ahead and you can go live, and I will start the knock feature. Fargrim, I'll go ahead and start with you. Should have been sent. You should see it. If anything, it'll be in your notifications up at the on Twitch there. Click and join there.
Oh, your starting soon screen looks amazing.
I don't know who you're referring to.
Adventure.
Oh.
Yeah, adventure.
Yeah, paid
I like it.
$11 for it. Thank you. Oh, it asked me if I want to collaborate. I say get started. So when I clicked collaborate, it opened up like a Twitch, like Discord almost thing.
Yeah.
Can I not?
Come
I
together.
don't have to use that, right?
No, you don't have to use that at all. That just gets us to where we're collaborating together.
Gotcha.
Start share chat. Shared chat is enabled now.
Uh-huh.
So once we get Fargrim in here, Fargrim, are you going to be on Firefox? Get that opened up and.
We're learning. Oh my god.
All right. We will still have shared chats with me, Adventures Anonymous, and Solid, which will work perfectly. You can do that, or you can continue to stream as well. I can keep yours up and watch for any questions as well.
Also keep an eye open too.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we should be good to go. If y'all want, you can always use the either the full screen or the pop-out screen for Discord. So I think we're good. We've got the knock feature for everybody who's doing that. I think Ghost.
Do I need to knock? How can I knock? Knock.
Hold on. Let me hit you with a knock and see if you could accept the request, Ghost.
Ooh, someone's got double audio.
Maybe mute your Twitch that opened in that tab. I had to do that. Is the knock what allows us to like click the collaborate?
Yeah, you should. So up on your up on Twitch itself, you know where your little notifications is up at the top.
Yeah.
You know your
Okay.
whispers, all
I'm
that.
already,
It should
I'm
have.
already shared chatting and.
Oh yeah, we've already got. Let's see here. We've already got me, Solid, and Adventures Anonymous
Yep.
in here. So
I wonder how this sounds. Let me look at my phone.
all right, I'm gonna go ahead and go over to my live scene and get my audio back on.
All right, that works. That
There we are.
works.
I want my videos black, but I got your knock.
Ah. All right. Oh, yep, you were in there. We've got shared chat, everything perfect. Everything looks good. Right. So, right. Well, I guess we can start with our first question.
Well, you want to start off with introductions?
Oh yeah, obviously. Introductions. All right,
Could do
so
that.
yep,
Go.
yep, we should probably do that. That would be a good idea. My brain isn't quite working well enough today. So, top left, we have Adventures Anonymous. Go ahead and tell us about your channel, a little bit about yourself.
Oh gosh, yeah. I'm a part of Adventures Anonymous. We run weekly D&D games. We have a couple DMs, and we alternate different games. We are actually collaborating on a few one-shots with Fargrim and Solid 10 D&D, kind of little one-off spooky Halloween things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we I think have really fun games, really great presentation. We like to have a really good time, and I think we're all pretty cool and entertaining folks, as we all are, which is why we are all here. That's all I
Perfect.
got.
Perfect. Next we have Fargrim.
Hi, I'm Fargrim. We play at least 2 to 3 times a week, and for consistently over 10 months now. And currently running 2 campaigns, and soon to be a third on the 31st. That's all I got.
Perfect. All right, we are over to Ghost here.
Hi, how you doing? I run a channel over on YouTube called GhostXC, where I mostly play No Man's Sky. I do a lot of like lore explainer videos, and somehow or another that kind of led into this idea of a sandbox RPG style thing that me and some of the folks on my Discord started doing. So we've been taking everything, which is very little, that I know about D&D and trying to apply it to the world of No Man's Sky mostly through the tutelage of people on the Discord, teaching me as we go. It's been a great time. We've done it for 2 seasons. Each season has gotten just more and more complicated, and now we're just like full on battle maps and classes and wizards and stuff. So it's been fun.
Wonderful. Wonderful. All right. Is that everything you got for us, Ghost? I'm guessing that's a yes, Ghost.
I want more.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I
Hear me?
didn't hear you for a second. All right. I
Okay.
want to make sure everybody fully finishes up their introduction and everything. Solid. Go ahead, buddy.
I'm John. I DM for Solid 10 D&D. Our campaign is Chronicles of the Nildor and the Lost Tomes. It started last June, before last. It started as like text-based and play by post with some friends just to build a world. Then we started doing voice chat, then video, and now we are streaming. I think we've been streaming since March, and we're having a blast with it. I think a couple of the players are in the chat hanging out. We got Rottweiler and Unstoppable Bug. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. We stream on Twitch. Usually we do like 2 on, 1 off to kind of have a break. We started another series of like side stories within the same world to kind of flesh out other places within the world. And doing a spooky one shot next Friday that the Unstoppable Bug is DMing for. I'll be technomancing in the background. I think Adventures Anonymous and Fargrim are playing in it. It should be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
We post stuff.
We've already started.
Oh yeah, doing the text by post.
Yeah, it's already been
Session
fun.
0.
Oh yeah.
We post stuff everywhere: on TikTok, Instagram, all kinds of stuff. So we're everywhere. You can Google us, and we pop up. So that's all I got.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, Ravi, what about you?
So, for those who don't know, my name is SonRavii. I have been playing D&D since early 2021. I always wanted to get into it. I had a couple personal buddies who played it and DM'd. I played it and fell in love with it. It was like a snowball from there, and I've DM'd a few campaigns and one shots. I've been on both sides of both DM and player. I am a variety streamer. I don't usually stream D&D all that much. Let the DM and maybe some other players stream it, but yeah, no, it's been a long found hobby of mine, and I love every little bit of it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. All right. And last but not least, we've got Velvet over here. Velvet, go ahead and introduce yourself, buddy.
Hey there. I am Velvet Slime. I am a variety streamer on Twitch. I've taken a little bit of hiatus while I focus on a couple of other things happening in my life. But I mostly play horror games. I've been DM on and off. But I mostly play horror games. 15 years. I have played, but mostly my experience is in DMing. I run a multitude of different games, everything from Dungeons and Dragons to Pathfinder to Mothership to Tales from the Loop. I love tabletop RPGs. I like telling stories, so I got a huge amount of love for this community, and that's kind of like how I found everyone else here. Beyond that, catch me hopefully very soon. Streaming again. I'm trying to plan out some time and come off hiatus.
Wonderful, wonderful. And we definitely want to see you back after your hiatus, Velvet. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, we're definitely going to catch you.
All right. So now that we've got introductions, besides mine, I guess, if you don't know me, I'm the host for tonight. My name is Xander. Well, I play a variety of different games, everything from horror games to first-person shooters. But as far as D&D goes, I didn't play until, well, just about a year ago. I've always wanted to, hadn't had a chance. And after a year in a campaign almost, I've cottoned on really well. Been able to make characters very well, as far as I could tell. Drives Fargrim crazy a little bit. But also starting to get into some DMing and stuff like that. And just kind of start building worlds, or at least helping so far. So I can't wait to see what I'm able to do and what all of you are able to do with the worlds that you, well, end up creating. So, besides introductions, I guess we shall get into this. We've got plenty of questions tonight. Our
I'm
first
sorry.
one.
I don't mean to
Go ahead.
interrupt. I just
You're
realized
fine.
I have a question for all of the DMs
Okay.
that I might be asked. Maybe I shouldn't ask it. How long have you been DMing? I don't know if many of you have answered it. I think some of you have. Well, I'm just curious, and I thought that people would be curious as well. I'm sorry.
Oh, that was a great question. I've been DMing for at least the past 3 years.
All right, so we've got Fargrim with
I can
3
say-
years. Okay. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and go back around and adventure. Since you asked that question, we'll go ahead and get you on the last one of this. So, Ghost, how long have you been DMing?
Well, I think you could arguably say that I still don't, but probably still. Probably back to about February or so I started.
Wonderful. All right, and then Solid. How about you?
Let's see. It was June 2023. So a little over a year and a half, maybe. Still a baby
Year and a
DM.
half?
Yeah.
Still a baby, but still learning. And Ravi, you kind of answered that question in your introduction, but go ahead and
Yeah.
give us a solid answer on how long you've been
So
DMing.
the earlier 2021 started off as a player. About 6 months in of being a player, I wanted to try my hand at DMing. Luckily, the group I was in, we like to take turns DMing. Everybody enjoyed being a DM, so it was my turn. I DM'd a one shot, fell in love with it. Fell in love with it so much that one shot turned into a campaign. So I've done about 4 campaigns, 3 one shots, and I'm still doing world building. I'm really bad with world building, because I take a lot of time into it. But yeah, I don't want to say I'm the most experienced, but I do have a dip my toes in the water, as one would say.
All right, and now we have Velvet there.
So yeah, like I said, I've been DMing for quite some time. A little bit of 3.5, but on and off for the last 15 years. I'm 34 now. I've been playing tabletop RPGs um around since I was 19. But the the majority of my experience, the most consistent part of my experience was during the launch of 5th edition, when it was D&D 1. Not 1, 1 D&D, or is it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh god, because there's 1 D&D now, but there was D&D Next. I'm thinking about D&D Next. It was called D&D Next. Uh and that's when I started, like, really, like, it became like a big part of my life, because before then it was just kind of like did a little bit here, a little bit there, but yeah.
Perfect. So now, these questions we have laid out, they're not in any sort in order, but I may skip around and, choose a different question here and there. And if one plays off another one that I see, I may ask that as a follow-up question for y'all. That way we don't, that way we can, have entertainment
I enjoyed that.
and get through there and get through some of these different questions. You know what? The first one I am going to ask you. Let's see here. Well, that's a perfect first one. What is the current campaign about that you are DMing? And we will start it up there with Adventures Anonymous.
Oh, okay. I'm slightly regretting that I was like, I don't want to see the questions until we go. Yeah, the campaign I'm DMing is called Odyssey of the Dragon Lords. It's sort of not an official like Wizards of the Coast module. It's like a third party release by some of the guys that worked for BioWare. A couple of the writers on that, they wrote a book, a campaign book, uh, in the SonRavii, like the official Wizards offering. Is it Odyssey of Theros, or is it something? It's something of Theros. It's like that Greek fantasy inspired, like gods and Greco-Roman warriors. It's so these two writers from BioWare who wrote them like KOTOR and Mass Effect. They wrote this sort of book that I just read through that I thought was very well written and had these sort of through lines for each character that made the game interesting through levels 1 through 5, 5 through 10, 10 through 15, like continuously. And yeah, I'm running that right now. There's it's very Greek tragedy, very like I'm a half god and like my dad is a god, and but like we're like kind of have animosity towards each other. All of these sort of Jason and the Argonauts, and I mean any type of Greek not high, but any sort of Greek film or sort of content you've consumed, it's very much that. There's hydras and pegasuses, and you get your own boat at some point. You can sort of roam around Mediterranean adjacent, fantasy adjacent type place, and it's been super fun.
Nice. It does sound like a very interesting and fun campaign.
It's super cool.
It definitely sounds like it. All right. Well, next we've got Fargrim. Fargrim, what is your current campaign about?
So my current campaign is a alien invasion during 2,000 years after the post-apocalyptic setting. There are like coffee shops and things like that repurposed as like blacksmiths, stores. Recently, I had one of my players blow up a skyscraper that was laying down and being repurposed for a alien fortress. That was interesting. But yes, I did it as a slow burner in a sense because I didn't want to throw like aliens, aliens, aliens in their face. So I took my time and made it sort of like a thriller in a sense, like suspenseful. And then once they all received the information and kind of pieced together what was going on, they're finally in the last part of doing the final step in completion of the story. And I'm very excited to see that. So I have guns, I have electricity, I have like antimatter rifles and blast rifles, and revolvers, flintlocks. It's very non-traditional, but I think that's what makes it unique. And that's our story.
Perfect. All right, Ghost. What do you got for your current campaign?
I throw aliens, aliens, aliens in their faces. That's the whole thing. It's all aliens all the time. We take the lore of the game of No Man's Sky and we sort of like weave our own story into it hopefully without like interrupting what they might be coming up with or what's been going on in the game. But currently our campaign is called Away Team, which is the wrong IP entirely. I admit that. And we have a group that traveled to a pirate system that encountered a group of pirates that stole their friend, which was this sentient AI, basically. And then all the shenanigans that have happened since then, they realized that this group of pirates is actually working for this much larger organization. They follow that organization around and it's kind of come to a head at this point. We just kind of we took a little bit of a break between seasons, but we ended on a cliffhanger with the group like traveling through a rift in their ship, chasing a big enemy vessel that has one of their own on board. Alice actually kidnapped by the enemy.
Wow.
So it's been a lot of fun. It's again aliens all the time. It's been a lot of it's been trying to figure out how mechanics really work in the world that we're building, and we just kind of kind of make it up on the fly a little bit and try to ground it in the rules of D&D. But it's been a challenge. It's been a lot of fun building that world together.
Yeah, not to mention it is a challenge because you're trying to play this campaign and this whole thing in, No Man's Sky, which is already a game that's established. So, it definitely makes it interesting trying to weave your own world into that.
Yeah, we get lucky. They play it fast and loose with the lore. So there's a lot of little pockets to jump into that they'll probably never touch again, but we just don't know. So we try to play it safe.
Oh, perfect. All right, solid. What is your current campaign about?
Oh, geez. So because I started as such a, I guess, green DM, I tried to make it easy. And I'm like, there are no gods. They're gone. I I don't have time to learn the pantheon and all about that. I'll just say that they're gone for some reason. Um, and really just kind of made it up as I went. I gave someone a book in the first session and it ended up being a lost tome, which are these ancient, very powerful objects. It's almost a subclass in itself with what it can do almost. But the main thing is to find the tomes, and I keep getting distracted by drama and other stuff that's going on. The idea is to collect the tomes and see what happens. The whole thing was like the void tome. The first tome that was found was whenever they open it. At first, they have to figure out how to open it. Once they open it, it will teleport them to a random place. I pretty much low level gave them a way to bamf around the world. So oh, you're in a new place, and I have to make this shit up now. So, uh, trying to just kind of build places out, build a map from that kind of thing. I think we just did session 49. I have big plans for 50, but they're currently in the
Yeah.
Shadowfell facing death,
Oh,
who kind of well, well, let's see. I try to tie backstories into arcs in the story. They're going to rescue an NPC that was banished there a hot minute ago. They find him, but also one of the characters' backstories, his mother was killed by death. So his dad went looking for him. And the player actually played his dad in a one shot a long time ago. So it's kind of like there's a lineage going with his characters. Well, they found death, and it turns out that his dad is now death. Some big stuff that was
nice.
revealed, like literally Friday.
Yeah,
So
that is some big stuff.
I think they've found 4 tomes so far. And there's still some. They don't know how many there are. But yeah, that's kind of gist of that. Lots of fun NPCs and
That's what it's about, just having
yeah.
fun. That's a main part of it, you know. Um, so on to Robbie. Robbie, obviously you're not DMing a campaign right now, at least not that I know of. But
I do have a campaign that I've been working on.
that's
And
what
I've
I
been
was gonna
working on.
ask.
Yeah. I'm not currently DMing, but there's a campaign. It's been it's been my child for a few months. I've been working on it off and on. It is a Elden Ring campaign, and that is like whenever I heard Ghost was doing a No Man's Sky, like my ears peaked up because I'm sort of doing close to the same thing. I want to get the world fully fleshed out. So, for anybody who's played Elden Ring, if you know the lore, I love lore videos, stuff like that, learning
Mhm.
about different stuff. So in the lore, the merchant caravan, kind of like the merchant guild, gets framed for heresy for the frenzied flame, and they're basically put to death. Kind of, they're exiled into the catacombs and all that, and they all kind of go crazy. I was gonna send the players on a basically find out what happened. And it's been great. Right now, I have probably about 5 different Word documents filled with different stuff and mechanics. I got to set up different stat blocks for monsters. I want to work on something with different status effects. So like depending on your Constitution score, if you got a high Constitution score, you might not build up a bleed status or like a bleed status or anything like that as fast as somebody as who has a low Constitution score. So it's been the creativity juice has been flowing with that one. I'm super excited. It's something different. It's it a little bit more homebrew. And honestly, what helps out is that Elden Ring already gives me a map for it, so I don't have to do much with that.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh, yeah. I never thought about that.
All right. Actually, that does sound like a lot of fun, Ravi. And hopefully we see that here soon. Velvet, are you in a current campaign right now?
I'm
DM a
actually,
current campaign?
I am DMing a current campaign. It is a Pathfinder 2nd Edition game called The Outlaws of Alkenstar, where the players play as a bunch of outlaws that have been wronged. And their goal is to get back at the person who wronged them. It's a good old fashioned tale of revenge. I'm running this. It's a pre-made, one of the Paizo official campaigns. While I go ahead and actually am working on my own stuff. But yeah,
Wonderful. Wonderful. And I will go ahead and answer that question. Obviously, I'm not DMing anything right now, but I have helped Fargrim with a couple things on some of the one shots, and I was going to be helping on this current one for Halloween, but me and Ravi kind of went a little overboard on our characters, and he's like, you know what? I'm just going to let you play your character. Hey there, Raven. And on my stream tonight, I want to let everybody know. Usually, I'm very talkative with chat, but tonight's more about you guys, the DMs. So I'll be answering more just typing in chat when I can. I will answer verbally, but I don't want to interrupt these guys, whether answering questions or anything like that. So hopefully you all enjoy it and you get to hear a little bit more. And don't be afraid to put any questions you have for them in the chat. I'll put them down and we'll go through and get to them as well. So, good to know. Thank you for the heads up. You're very welcome, Raven. So on our next one, so we've got your current campaign right now. You know what? Let's get into a little bit of a tougher question. Um, how do you handle when one of your players leaves the party in the middle of a campaign? And yet again, we'll start up there with adventures.
And so when I have a player that's like, I'm a rogue and my parents are dead and I want to go off here and take this. It depends on how tough the lesson has to be. If I can place like a hardship in front of them and be like, okay, well, you encounter this thing, and I'm not gonna like arbitrarily just kill somebody, but you encounter, okay, you're going off in this way by yourself, potentially through this dark, filled with enemies forest. Okay, you're gonna encounter these things. They'll be appropriate to your level, but you're going to encounter them by yourself. And if they survive that, I mean, I think there's ways to sort of gently herd newer players, because I think the newer players are the ones who would sort of try and go away from the group. I mean, even in my games, I sort of preface the games with you all agree to work as a group. That's just the main thing. Like, we're not doing cut twos. Like, it's not I'm the main character. I'm doing my own thing. I'm the son of a king. Like, all games are sort of, they have this, that's not a there's rules. Like, okay, by playing in this game, you agree to work with the party. Generally, just like to work with the party. If you can't, put some hardships in front of you and potentially talk to you after, depending on how far you go in that direction. Like if you're just dead set on going that way, then we can go that way just for the sake of the game to keep things rolling. Then between sessions, we'll talk about it. But if that's what you want to do every game, then I think we'll just probably find a new player or just kind of move on. Would be my answer.
If I could spell here. All right. I will be posting over in the side chat the questions as we go through. Splash, thank you for the Splash 9 TV. Thank you for that follow. I appreciate it. Fargrim, how do you handle when a player leaves in the middle of a campaign?
Well, honestly, it depends on the circumstance. Like, if it's life situations, like, cool, your character wanders off and finds a new purpose in life. We had that happen a few times since we played for over 10 months. Or when we had some disagreements, I just, let them go out to pasture without putting them down like Cold Yeller, which creates different and cool story narratives. But, like, honestly, like, once they go, it does suck because it makes you feel like, okay, what can I do, or what did I do to, well, what can I do to prevent this from happening if it's on me? But if it's a life thing, then it's just a life thing, So we just pick up and move on. And just somehow I just rewrite the story.
All right. Perfect. Ghost, how do you handle when a player leaves in the middle of a campaign?
This happens all the time for me. Again, I've only been doing this in February. We've kind of set up the campaign itself to be centered around a group that is sort of a larger group. We call it the Spectral Vanguard, and the team that's dealing with the conflict is just a small fraction of that. So to kind of like encourage people to drop in if they wanted to, I've kind of floated that, like, we have like a home planet in game, our Discord. Like, we know where that place is. Like, if we ever needed backup, people can just pop in. Like, people can come to where we are and play for a session if they want to try it out. We have a lot of people who start and then don't, just maybe play 2 sessions and then drop out, or we'll play for a bunch, can't make it a few weeks, and then we'll come back. We have a really solid crew now who's there almost every weekend. But it's been a process, especially through season 1. The story was a little bit different, so people were kind of dropping in and out. It didn't make a lot of sense as far as the story was concerned. This time we've kind of built it into the actual campaign, whereas because of the method of travel in this universe, it's really easy to get anywhere quickly. So people drop in, they just came from the home planet. People drop out, they went back. When they come back, I usually work with them to kind of build a story as to where they were, add it to their backstory. We keep logs on my website, and kind of try to build that into their backstory. That might make it into like a one shot down the road or something like that. So it just happens so much that I had to like figure something out.
Awesome. All right, Cheryl, solid. How do you deal with it when a player leaves in the middle of a campaign?
In this campaign so far, there have been 2 players that have left. Both just life. Actually, no, there have been 3. When we started with text-based, they just kind of faded and wouldn't answer, and I introduced a magical item to like capture and kind of hold them, so they were kind of just being held in this stasis in a necklace for a while, moving along until the story presented a place for the character to stay. Then with the second character, it kind of, we reached a point in where his backstory kind of crossed So he too decided to stay like with his tribe that he had left um, before the adventure started. And then the third was a little tougher because we were going through like really getting into some nitty gritty stuff. But since he was a bard and he'd been traveling and not really performing much, like I kind of tried to pull elements from who his character was. I think he had a background in brewing stuff, and this town had a great brewery, and they needed someone to work there. And there was a great tavern that no one was performing in; it was quiet. So he just kind of said, "You know what? I feel right here for now," and he just kind of stayed in that place. They're still alive out in the world, and I plan on um, having the characters come back, and I would love to have the players come back for cameos at some point to kind of be like, it's the final showdown kind of thing. Let's kind of bring them back together because they're still friends. Like I still talk to them. So
Oh,
just trying
nice.
to weave the story in a way that it feels natural. It's not like just, okay, bye, and they walk away. Um,
Mhm.
it's this makes sense for them as the individual that they are within the world.
Nice. I like that way of doing it. I like that. All right, Ravi,
Yeah.
how do you handle it?
For me, it's like situational. If the if the player is like, okay, they have a month where they can't play, I'll usually kind of figure something out with their character. Maybe they need to go do a task real quickly and they leave, or maybe they just stick around as an NPC until that player comes back. But if they're like gone out of the campaign, then it's a little bit more situational. It is depending on how connected is that character with the rest of the group. How can I use this to kind of further add in the storyline, add in the role playing and stuff like that. If they're super close, they it might be an NPC for a few sessions, and then they make a very very hard sacrifice to save the rest of the party, or maybe they're kidnapped, and that is now a new goal that they need to further on the storyline. So that's something that for me it's very situational. If they're maybe not so connected, um, maybe they decide that it would be better if they went at the problem in a different way, maybe a little bit later on, or get an offer to do something else and then maybe split that way. But it's like I said, for me it's a little bit more situational, and I like to try to incorporate it into the lore and make it as fluid as possible, with their character leaving.
Okay, that's definitely a good way of doing it. Ah, I like it. All right, Velvet, how do you handle when a player leaves in the middle of a campaign?
Well, the first thing I do is just to try to communicate with that player and try and figure out if it's a short-term leave or a long-term leave. I also ask if they're available to come back at a later time, because that is going to depend on like how I'm actually going to go ahead and write them out. Um, because like I'm a big fan of games that yeah bring people back from the past. Like if they have to go and like especially if it's like emergency, or I'll ask them. Like the biggest key is communicating with the
Yeah.
player who is leaving, to kind of get a feel for like what is this, uh and like I also ask if I could have like a can I get a couple of sessions to so we can get to you to a point that makes sense to write you out,
Yeah.
like a little bit of buffer, and then from there, if it's just kind of you just work on the fly. It's writing people out is easy. It's stupid easy to make it permanent. You could always kill them, but it's a lot better to leave it open and surprise the players later down the line. Maybe if that person wants to come back with, "Hey, I need your help."
Yeah, like that. Like that.
I'm
All
so
right.
sorry if I
Go
feel
ahead.
like I answered this wrong initially. I took this as like their player character was leaving the game
Ah.
continuously every session. Like they're just going off on their own. Like they keep leaving.
We should do a round.
And I'm
I mean, you
like,
did.
what? What are you doing?
Yeah. All right. Well, we
I mean,
can
I
come
did like
back
your
to
answer.
on this one here. Let you give an actual.
Oh no, my
your
answer
actual
would be the same as Velvet Slimes. It'd be the same thing.
Yeah.
Like I would either
Perfect.
just like they'd go off on their own adventure, or even a cooler thing, potentially with their consent, they would come back as like a BBEG, big bad evil guy, and they'd be like the main bad guy because they've already established a sort of relationship with everybody, and it'd be kind of more hurtful if they
Or,
That'd be
or
good.
gal.
were mean to them.
Evil guy or gal.
Betrayal.
Yeah. Exactly. I like that. Now our next question is from Splash9 TV, who just followed recently. They have a question. He's looking to become a new DM. What can he do, or what could she do to prepare a new group for a first campaign as a new DM?
I have a lot of
Adventure?
ideas because since I play like a lot of different games, I'm used to teaching people over and over and over, even the same group of people. But if anyone
Perfect.
wants to take it first, I'll let them.
It's
Yeah,
what can they do to prepare a group, or to procure a
Yeah.
group, or to
Well,
Prepare.
let's just
Prepare.
say prepare themselves and prepare the new group. Just some ideas of, them starting out as a TM. What can they do for themselves and for the group to get them really started in on it? And feel free if there's a question you don't really have an answer to, or you feel someone would have a better answer, or something like that. You can always pass on the question. You don't have to answer one. We started top left there with adventure and just moved down. So if any of you want to skip a question or you don't have anything, I don't want to say relevant, but maybe you don't feel is as relevant to it, or maybe something that's already been said or something like that, you can feel free to pass if you would like. So we'll start at adventure. I know Velvet. He's last in the queue, but he has got some ideas about that.
Since
so.
I've been being first, I mean I have an answer, but I'm gonna popcorn to Velvet. And let
Perfect.
Velvet go.
So my answer for the first portion is what can I do as a DM is know the rules, know the basics of the rules, and come up with an idea of how you're going to go ahead and do some stuff on the fly. You are not going to know the DC of everything off the top of your head. You don't need to stress like about situational stuff. You could just do your best. The most important thing you can do is just keep the game rolling and communicate with your players. Listen, we'll take a look at this later. We'll have a conversation about it. Let's just keep going, especially if you are new. I cannot stress you are going to slog down your game if you have to look up every single rule. So get ready to get a lot of shit wrong real fast. Um, the next thing is that I always recommend starting with a pre-made. Starter sets are there for a reason, and if you're going to use a starter set, you should be reading the whatever you're doing front to back. And what I usually recommend is, especially if you're running some sort of pre-written campaign, the first read is just reading it front to back. You're not writing notes, you're not doing anything, you're just reading, enjoying the story, coming up with ideas, let everything kind of germinate. Then you're going to read it again and you're going to take notes. And then the third time you're going to read it, you're going to read it again and you're only going to prepare exactly what you're going to be playing, or at least what you think you're going to be playing in that session. And the reason why you read it 3 times is because at some point, do not be surprised if players barrel through a section. So if they do and you haven't prepared whatever's coming up, you have the gist of what should be happening. As far
Yeah.
as like players, I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna keep it very real with you. Be ready to teach them the game from top to bottom, because it doesn't matter how many
See the D.
times you give stuff to your players. Let's be real, they may not have the same time and investment as you do to be like to put into the game, and that's okay. That's one of those things it's one of those like you got to eat that. So get ready to teach them from top to bottom. I mean, like one of
And
my
over
favorite
and over
players.
again.
Oh yeah. One of my favorite like I've had multiple of my like favorite players are They're people that I've had to re-explain things all the time. It doesn't. It's fine. It comes with the territory. The goal at the end of the day, as long as you're having fun. And I always tell my players, hey, try to read up as much as you can. And I tell them, I want you to know how to play your character at least. At least. And even then I still learn all the characters at the same time. But yeah.
Wonderful. All right. You know what? On questions like this, to where it's pretty well, once one answer is given, that's pretty well, the advice when it comes down to it. But I will go through and see if anybody has anything they'd like to add to that question or to that answer.
Yeah.
Just, I think, reading the source material. Like, in my experience, I read the Dungeon Master's Guide. I read it. Realized that there's a lot to learn, because it's, it starts with talking about gods and realms and all this big stuff. Like, that book is not super well organized in the way it's put together for dungeon masters. So I was started reading it front to back, as Velvet said, and I'm like, oh, let's just not have gods. And I created a homebrew world in that kind of way, and I read through the things that would probably matter. And if I didn't know, then I looked it up and I learned it. It's constantly learning. You're As a dungeon master or a game master, you're going to be doing a lot of learning, a lot of reading, and a lot of writing. At least in the beginning. The
Nice.
longer it goes, the easier it gets. And I've noticed that just in the past probably 3 sessions that I've been doing stuff, is that it gets easier, and you can kind of go more on the fly than typing out 12 pages of stuff to be ready just for every situation. Like, eventually it gets easier, where you can just kind of wing it and it works and it's fun. That's all I got.
I
You
like
something,
that.
Ravi? I thought you saw you.
Welcome back,
Yeah,
Nero.
yeah.
You had some Ravi.
Yeah. So for me, what really helped out was playing my strengths. I love D&D for the RP. Don't get me wrong, I love the combat, but that is like my strong suit. I love acting out. I love giving my character voices and stuff like that. So, if you know you're very very creative, and like you've written stuff before, like maybe in high school you're really good at your literature and writing fictional stories and stuff like that. Use that for your strength. It's DMing is thinking on your toes. It is being fluid. You can plan out as much as you can. There is always going to be a wrench thrown right in the middle of it. So just be prepared. It's not always going to go as you plan. And that shouldn't be a scary part, because as a DM you're telling a story. A story should have twists. A story should have, just plot twists, meaning, stuff like that. You're telling this story as it goes, and if there's a plot twist for you, guess what? You can make it a plot twist for your players too. So just try to be fluid, and just work with what you got. Use that creativity that everybody has, and it will turn out okay. Everybody's gonna have a great time. It's just breathe. Don't get too stressed out about it. Just kind of go with the flow as a DM and work your magic. Eventually, you're gonna get comfortable with it, and it's gonna be second nature.
Nice. Do we have anybody else that would like to add anything to that?
Well, I did like what Velvet said. And well, I like what everybody said, period. But learning your player strengths and how they play their characters is something that I don't know. I guess you know what? I'm just gonna agree with Velvet. Now that I'm thinking about it,
I think
That'll
we
work.
all
That'll
are
work.
going to agree with Velvet. Yeah, I agree with Velvet. I'd like to expound on it. Start with a starter module, a beginner, like Lost Minds of Feldelver it's perfect. It's perfect for your first time DM. Also, I think I know for me, like I've been playing D&D for like almost 15 years. I've only been DMing for the last 2. So that's how long it took for me to get comfortable, y'all. And you can start with one of those easy modules. Start with a group you feel comfortable with, like a group of close friends, because I remember playing the first times I felt so weird and so like vulnerable doing voices of characters. Like I've never done this around these people, and I'm just gonna talk like this and like what? Like I'm gonna do this around people, like so get to a point where, or at least start with people you feel like you can sort of go to those places with. So maybe pick a few choice people who you know will kind of roll with you in that way. Start with an easy module that sort of has it all written out for you, and I said this in chat. Do session 0, like session 0. Not session 1 where we're in the game, pre-session, like, hey, what do we all not know? What do we all think our character is gonna do? Kind of go over what you know, sort of go over what your parameters are and what sort of the spaces that are allowed within your own game, just so nobody's trying to go and do some crazy shit over here and do stuff that you really don't want. But I think, to echo Velvet, start with a pre-made, a very low level, like 1 through 4, 1 through 5 pre-made. Start with people that you feel very comfortable around, just to ease you into it, so you don't get just turned off of it quickly, because people kind of look at you weird when you start like feeling comfortable. And yeah, session 0. Make sure everybody knows what you're talking about. Make sure everybody knows what to expect in the game that you're going to be playing. That's what I got.
Nice, perfect. Um.
I mean, nobody wants to admit to
Oh,
eating
and
candy
Ren
for
says,
ravioli,
if you know
but I
someone
did.
who is a
I'm ashamed of
DM,
myself. but
ask them
first
to
can doesn't
observe,
count, then you get
and
the second and the
or ask
third.
them for advice as
Fourth
well.
and fifth, I think I
I
burned
was just
with
gonna call that out.
blowtorch.
I was just gonna call that
So
out
I
on the
just
street.
kept
I didn't
eating.
know if I was like
I'm
allowed to
sorry.
call out chats, but I was like, yes, that's also good.
Absolutely, absolutely. Go ahead.
AKA being a
we're
player for a
working-
long time, it serves the same thing. But I play with solid 10. I play with, in my game, or like at least 2 other DMs who DM'd for me before, and I'm like, what's this check? Hey, would you know? And then they tell me. So you definitely diversify, and don't be afraid to ask other people.
Exactly, and that is a good add there, Ren, to that. So next question. I am going to make this. You know what? Let's get into some little bit of maybe some bad experiences. What is one of your biggest nightmare experiences that you have experienced or you are not wanting to experience as a DM? Who would like to start this one out, or Ravi? Do you want to start this one out? Ravi, go ahead and start this one out.
I use this. I always talk about this situation kind of like a word of warning to other people and to maybe even some people who want to get into a DM, because eventually, if you DM long enough, you're going to come across these people. Unfortunately, I came across them kind of early on. So me, there are very few things that I won't allow in my campaigns. Very few things. One of the things, if you want to seduce somebody, absolutely you could do it, but it fades to black. It fades to black.
Yep.
That is it.
100% of the time. 100%.
And this person kept trying to go forward and explain things. So I said, look, we're that's not what it's for. This is not the group, and you're making other people uncomfortable. I've had people message me and verbally ask the person, and they just kept going forward to it, and it got to the point where I had to sit down with this person and tell them, I can't have you in my campaign anymore. You have been asked several times. I've been trying to work with you, and unfortunately had to kick him out. That is like for me is like my nightmare thing, and that's why you kind of also session 0, like what Adventure say. It's a
Yeah.
great way to see how players interact with each other, and that's kind of see maybe unfortunately that person didn't want to listen, but not everybody's like that. Some people, if you kind of give them a little message, maybe not like berate them in front of everybody, but like little side message or a little side talk, like, hey, we're not feeling a little bit comfortable with this. Maybe we can not do that. We could take it a different direction. Fade to black or just not do it. That is fine. But give that person a little bit of talk. Try your best. It. We're all there to have fun. And have a great time. So you don't want to take away that opportunity unless you absolutely have to from somebody.
Yeah, I agree. And before we move on to the next one, Robbie in chat, I think there was one specifically targeted at you from Sarah.
No, that's
Sarah
Robbie.
says, you know what I never want to experience? Frickin' Gooch Knuckles.
That was
Expand on Gooch Knuckles, please. I think I might have
Oh,
the gist of it, but
And it fades to
It's
black.
Knuckles that you.
yeah, fade to black.
right.
if
So,
somebody
Robbie,
says
go
Gooch
ahead.
Knuckles, it automatically fades to black.
Yeah,
Yeah.
immediately.
So we were doing a campaign. It's one of the Fargrims ones where we all wake up in jail, all that stuff. That was kind of like our session 1, and I had brass knuckles made out of alligator teeth.
Nice.
But as Fargrim goes on and starts talking
No.
about it, I do not have clothes. I have, just basically nowhere to hide it. So I was like, but I have it in my inventory, and I'm like, okay, fine. I'll just pull out my loincloth, and it went to that, and it does necrotic damage.
Yeah, and
Oh.
it just went downhill
Yeah,
from there.
it
on
went
that one.
straight downhill, dude. It's straight downhill. So that is the story of the Gooch Knuckles.
Oh, perfect. All right.
As a
who
Florida man.
wants- Right.
As a Florida man, it's swamp ass. That's why it has the necrotic.
Oh, you know what? Let's Solid. You got something to input on nightmare experience or something you don't want to experience as a DM?
This is tough. We all watch the memes and the TikToks and the nonsense on the
Yeah.
internet about horror stories, but I have to say I've had a pretty good experience. Like I really hated that 3 players have left over time. At one point, it was just 2 of them playing, and it was before we were streaming or anything like that. And we still had a blast. But as far as we've played, nothing really nightmarish has happened that couldn't be.
Anything you
I guess
don't
I've been
want to
lucky.
happen?
I mean, I've been trying to rack my brains while I was listening to you guys talk about Gooch Knuckles and prison bullets. I mean,
Oh.
I don't want I don't want anyone else to walk away. Like I love the players that play.
Fair enough.
Stop
Like
leaving.
even
Solid 10, everybody. Stay with him.
even
Yes.
scheduling is like they
Yes.
understand like this is like we're doing this and they're there.
Mhm.
Like it's rarely. I know that's like the number one big horror story. Scheduling is the actual BBEG of any
Mhm.
tabletop, but
Can be, yeah.
with this group, they're there an hour, 2 hours early. We're already in Discord, like talking, like hyping
Yeah.
up to play D&D. So I
Wonderful.
don't know.
I'm glad you've had a good experience with it thus far, though, and hopefully it continues that way for you.
I'm sure there'll be a moment. Ask me in a couple years.
No.
Right, exactly. You know what? Let's go over to Velvet here. Velvet, do you have anything on experience and stuff like that?
Like really negative experiences.
Or something you don't
or stuff
want
that
to
you
happen?
really don't want to happen.
I mean, I've had like negative experiences with players because sometimes it's hard to find. Actually, no, it's not hard to find players. It's just more so like putting yourself out there and then just having to weed them out. And like sometimes it doesn't matter how well you weed them out, and you have to be kind with yourself. That you can ask yourself, oh, how what could I've done better, and you can try all that. But like sometimes you'll get players who you're not going to mesh well. You roll with the punches and just keep moving on. I Most of the experiences, if they were like truly terrible, for the most part, just nip it in the bud. Kind of piggybacking on what 101 said. We're all here for a reason. We're here to play a game. I don't have time for I was gonna say games, but that's not true because we're all talking about a tabletop game, right? Um,
Different kind of games.
Right? Yeah. Like we're all here for a reason. We all want to have fun, and if my brand of fun is not the same as your brand of fun, that's fine. I'm just gonna find someone who aligns with the brand of fun that I want to play. Because not everyone's games are going to be each other's cups of tea. You got to keep that in mind. And so yeah, just again, roll with the punches. If they're too much of a problem player, I mean, and they can't wisen up after you lay down hard boundaries, then the door is there. Do not be afraid. Don't engage. Move forward and find someone else. That's
There's
it.
got to be a vibe.
Yeah, there
Yep.
has to be a
Yeah,
vibe.
absolutely. Well, let's go, Fargrim. How's it been for you so far?
Well, last campaign kind of fell apart because one of my players was very controlling over his spouse's character and how she played, which was borderline chauvinistic, I will say. And he would always go anally with everything, literally. So I had to permaban him, and that's pretty much one of the reasons why our campaign fell apart is because, well, we didn't really work well as a group because he was fighting me every step of the way with all my calls and shit. I'm just like, dude, we're done here. I even had Alice. She killed one of the players, and I brought them both back for this current campaign, and they're doing fine. But I guess that works with the how to make players work together. But that was a very nightmare situation, just to have a campaign fall apart just because of one asshole. But in this campaign, I had problems with players not understanding the rules or just choosing to not want to play because of other games that they were involved with, which is fine. But how they went about it could have been better, I should say. But yeah, those were my nightmare experiences.
Yeah. Sorry, I had to deal with it. Yeah, Raven. And Nero says as female, she fucking hates that. Which I agree that what you had to experience there and what happened there, that is definitely not something you want to experience. Absolutely not. And I've been in this current campaign with Fargrim, and there have been a few issues throughout it, but for the most part, this campaign's been pretty good, and we've been able to work around some of those characters and players not being there now and stuff like that. And we've made the best of it. It doesn't make it any easier when you have to deal with stuff like that, but as long as you work around it, stuff like that. Tell you what, Ghost, how about you? And then we'll
I'm
get to
with
our last one there, adventures.
well, first off, Alice killed a bunch of my players too. I just want to throw that out there.
I knew
Alice,
it.
come
I
on.
knew it.
Something's going on.
Dude,
Alice is a serial killer?
yes.
We gotta look into Alice.
I'm making it, you guys gotta make an NPC now that is Alice as a serial killer.
We do like a true crime doc with Alice. Fucking Netflix
There were
series.
signs.
It's a big bad. That was the big bad.
I tend to be. Granted, I've been doing it a heck of a lot shorter time than everyone, but I'm with Solid. I haven't had any really horrible issues come up so far because of the nature of the drop in drop out of our game. There has been session where like no one showed up. You know, it's on my channel every Friday night is community night. That's when we do this. We started it during community night. It's just when it goes. So I just keep a secondary thumbnail ready and I just fire if I need to. But I mean, that's been the worst that's happened. I didn't think too much about nightmare scenarios until I just heard all of yours, and now, so
Yeah.
When we're done here, I'll tell you because I'm not going to tell this story like while we're streaming, but let me tell you about like my first player experience.
Oh,
It is
yeah.
Damn.
abysmal.
Well, we will definitely have to hear that story after the Q&A this evening. Adventures Anonymous, do you have anything to add to this
I heard.
nightmare experience?
Oh no, he's frozen.
Oh, no.
Yep. He's frozen for the moment. Hopefully he'll come
I
back.
kind of want to see that on a T-shirt, just that face.
That face.
Oh,
Oh,
there
no.
he goes.
Lost
Oh,
him.
we lost him.
No.
Lost him.
no,
Hopefully
he's
he'll be
dead,
back
Jim.
here in a minute.
Oh, there he is.
There we go.
I think his internet did the thing
I think it might have done the things.
because his stream
no,
went
no.
too.
Did it?
Well, little sidebar. I guess it's not really a nightmare experience, but that same tome that I was talking about earlier that teleports them, I
Mhm.
kind of forgot about that, and they got in a pickle and then used it. And I'm like, okay, let me just throw out this whole town I'd planned, and now they're over here because we'd kind of moved away from that kind of. That's how it started and how we were playing, and there were actual real things going on, and there actually were consequences. One of the characters that a player played actually left, and now they're playing a new character, but that other character's out there, and we're doing side quests with them before everything kind of reconverges. There's a lot going on with that, but that really caught me off guard, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess they're not in this part of the world anymore. As I kind of slide those notes away, kind of thing.
Nice.
I,
Not really a nightmare, but like, okay, that was a lot of time I spent for later.
There we
He's back.
go.
Okay, there we go.
Welcome
I had,
back.
to switch,
Whoa.
I had to switch to Wi-Fi, and we're back.
Good.
Is it possible for me to still answer the question?
No,
Yeah,
no,
absolutely.
We're
We're on
actually,
the next
no,
one.
no
We're on the
question.
next one.
Answer the question. Yeah, no, nightmare experience adventures.
I mean, yeah. I mean, as a player, I've seen many. I think everybody else has sort of said versions of the same thing, but I think the main thing as a DM is not as any player that would try and take away from another player's like agency is just no, like, and don't do that. Like, if you're like, I'm gonna try and steal this thing from that person, and you try and like make it like they're a rogue, and so they obviously can sleight of hand it better than like a barbarian or something. Like, yeah, you could, but like you're gonna just come off as like a dick, or just even a DM saying like, "Oh, this happens to your character," and you have no say in how it happened, or it's just like, I think it all just comes down to like consent. Like when in games where I'm a player, I'm like, I recognize when there's like a cool thing that can be done, like, oh, this would sort of really heighten this scene if I was to like just sort of fight you and like get into this with you. But like I'll do that offline. I'll message somebody. I'll be like, hey, I think in this next game it would be really interesting if I, came at you and was like really aggressive and fought you. But like I'm not trying to kill you. I'm just like trying to make a point and like get somebody in on it with you so they feel like they're sort of like an actor with you, because that's literally, I mean, that's what they are really. And you're just trying to make, especially in the streaming space, you're just trying to make something interesting. I'm not trying to like destroy you. I'm just trying to, this is something that is interesting. I feel like also my character would do, but I'm not trying to do something to you. I'm trying to make something with you. And it's all consent. It's all just like, hey, I want to do this. How do you feel about that? Maybe what would be your thoughts on how we could do this? Okay, and then we'll do it in the game. I think a lot of things just come down to consent. Like even with like, I potentially feel like my character would like your character. Would you be comfortable with this? Because I've had many times, I'm like, yeah, I feel bad for spurning these attempts, but like if you would just say, I feel like my character would be trying to do this, and I could say, well, my character's wife has been dead for 10 years and he's still trying to find her, and like he's not gonna go for, like, it's just, it would clear up so much stuff. Just like in between games, you can say, I'm sort of aiming to go to this place. I'm trying to do this with you. I feel like it'd be interesting for the sake of the game. What do you feel about it? And if they say no, then it's no, and then you don't have to deal with it.
Communication.
Mm-hmm.
Communication, not with only your DM, but with the other players in the party.
Yep.
And I agree with that. Communication is key like that. I know in the current campaign we've played through, we've had some things where people have tried to steal things from another, and we've had to deal with that as we go. We're gonna move on to the next question, but I do have Fargrim's nightmare scenario, his true one. It's when me and Ravi get together in a voice chat to make characters. I think that's his real nightmare there.
The min-maxers.
Okay, hold on. How I build characters is I create the character's backstory, figure them out, and then I build the character sheet off that. I did not mean to make them min-max, because I just usually build them. I'm like, okay, it would make sense if you had this, and that has created characters that have been way underpowered and way overpowered. Yeah, for no reason. But yeah, no, I think it was like we got done with D&D at like 10 o'clock at night, and then stayed up working on our characters for a one shot until 4 o'clock in the morning in a VC together.
Then we told Fargrim about it the next day.
Motherfuckers, that's all I gotta say.
All right. Let's let me find you all a good one for the next question here. Nero, you have created a very fun character. I am definitely looking forward to that. Ooh. You know what? Let's give you a kind of a DM and kind of a two-part question to it. It's for when you're DMing and also when you play as a player. What is your favorite class to have in your campaign? And also, what is your favorite class to play as a player? You know what? Let's start this back up the top here real quick. We'll go that direction, and then we'll change it up for the next question. Adventures.
Favorite class to have in my campaign and favorite class to play as a player. Favorite class to have in my campaign. I might go with player first because that's very readily available to me. I really like gishes, like spell marshals. I tend to either go paladin or blade singer. I really like. Yeah, I'm gonna say blade singer wizard. It's just, you can just do so much. Wizard's so powerful, and you can choose the front line and sort of spec yourself to be able to do so in a certain way, or just stay on the back line and help everybody. It's really, I mean, wizards are OP just in terms of their spell book and everything, and to be able to be like a wizard who can attack twice per turn at level 5 is crazy. But favorite class to have, I'm gonna say like a cleric who is down to play a cleric as a cleric, like who's just a cleric. I think a cleric just lends so much to good RP, and especially if you've sort of absolved yourself of the need to like do the most damage and be the shiniest star. Like a supportive, like I got you, you're blessed, you're blessed, you're blessed.
You're
Like
blessed.
getting people, everybody up, like, and you can RP to that end. I think I like it as a DM, and I think just players like it as just like players, like because there's so I feel like so many people are just I'm trying to do the most amount of damage. I'm trying to do the most amount of I'm trying to make the most amount of impact, and like the support characters, I feel like they're less chosen, but when you just dedicate yourself to be like I'm just like I'm a bard. I'm just gonna inspire, help you, make that not hit you, heal you. Like it's people players appreciate it just so much. So I'll say cleric for a character to have, and wizard because I don't obviously listen to my own advice.
All right. Fargrim, what about you? And I'm going to interrupt before you go, Fargrim, for just a second. Splash, the one that asked the question about the new players, had missed what you had all said. Time-wise and everything, we really don't have time to go back over the whole question and everything. But if you would like, in the chat, you can talk to them and give them some pointers in chat while you're listening and, waiting for your turn to speak, if that would...
They asked about what type of players
that was
were your nightmare as a DM.
that was how to prepare as a new DM and how to prepare the new group.
Won't it be on the VOD? They could just.
Yeah, well, but
So many
I'll give them a
VODs,
little
yes.
something right now.
Lots of places to
Yeah.
watch.
Yeah, we've got plenty of places to rewatch and stuff like that if they want to go back for that. I don't have my VODs on right now, but I do have everything recording, so I will make sure I get it over on my YouTube and everything. But also, if you'd like to put a little bit of input in chat while we continue, that would be awesome. But Fargrim, let's get to the question to you. Favorite character to have in your campaign and favorite character to play as a player.
So my go-to class when I play is either fighter or multi-class of fighter barbarian. Recently I played a paladin in solids one shot. That was pretty, huh?
I love paladins; they're so great.
Yeah, I mean, I really had a good time with that. But as for players to DM for, I have a soft spot for my wizards. I think that they have a lot, almost as equal as RP value as Anonymous said about clerics, in a sense of, because it's fantasy. Of course, you're gonna think of Gandalf and shit. I would have to say wizards and monks, because there's so much you can do with monks, because there's different types of monks in different faiths. So they don't really have a whole lot of like specialty items. There's just items that fit with them so well, like the cloak of displacement or the boots of speed, or
All right,
things
we're
like
getting into
that.
Griffin here, huh?
But yeah, those
Yeah.
those are my answers.
Ah, wonderful. All right, Ghost. What, as far as it goes, favorite kind of character to play, and favorite
This
kind of
is
character to DM for.
Yeah, this is complicated for me because of how we have things. Everything that we have in our game is very much has some sort of analog to real D&D with our classes and whatnot. The first one that we really introduced was like a wizard type technomancer, um, and that's kind of really what kind of birthed the idea that hey, people are cool with this, so let's dive in. Um, we built out a bunch, and the one that I was really looking forward to, gosh, what did we call it? Oh, the one that I was really looking forward to see somebody play, especially the role playing of it all. But nobody chose it. Was um, this Raider style one that nobody went with. But of the people that we have currently, I'd say I'm kind of enjoying people's roguelike outlaw playthrough. They're really getting into the the crime of it all, I guess, with the role play. Um, but
Yeah.
personally, for me, when I play, like when I play anything, I'm always the medic, the support guy, you know, just in life and are imitating life. So
God, you're my
I
favorite
have
character.
a cleric like class that we have called Starborn that I've made. I've made my character in our world, and tried to shoehorn in the reason why, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I'll work it out later, but I've always enjoyed like the support characters and stuff like that. So
Nice. That is awesome.
I would like to
And
say,
yours. Go ahead.
so side note for you, Ghost, in my D&D server, I have a DM war room, basically, where it's like, if you have any roadblocks that you've come into or, like, need another pair of eyes on, just drop the question in there and I'll at least look at it.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
great.
Xander, sorry.
Oh, you're good. You're good. See what I like about having you here also, Ghost, because you're giving a slightly different perspective on D&D in a way to use the game that is just not a tabletop version, which I like. I like that you're taking it to a different direction and using it, in a different game and actually, creating something new out of it.
We started it as like a play style of the original game, and then as we've gone into it more and more, people were like testing the water with each little step. Like, well, what will people be willing to do? Will they be willing to actually like get into the role play? And they have. Like, people have really embraced it amongst our player group. So we just recently dove all in, and then when we come back from this break, we'll be full on hybrid game. We exist in the world. All of our battle maps again, super easy. They're all there. Just screenshots of the game from way up above. Works out really well. But yeah, we'll be full hybrid when we get back, which I'm looking forward to.
Nice. I like that. I like that. All right, solid. Favorite class to have in your campaign and favorite class to play. Now, keep in mind this could also be a multi-class as well. I figured I'd mention that now and everything, but yeah, it could be a multi-class as well.
That's mentioning multi-class. That's kind of something that I know multi-classing is fun and you can do a lot with it. But with just the homebrew nature of this world, there's generally not a lot of multi-classing. If you want to learn something new, then you need to find someone to teach you, and you can learn it. But technically, there is not multi-classing. Like there is a sorcerer that can do some healing
You're
stuff
talking about
because
Tristria.
yes, hung out with a cleric for a little while, learned some stuff. There's a druid that learned how to rage. It kind of fit with its homebrew. It's a single rage per short rest or something like that, and is a little tweaked and a little different. It's kind of multi-classing, but not really. But to answer the
I
actual question,
kind of have a story with one of my characters on that after you finish.
little backstory on me. I had talked with some friends. Hey, we're gonna play some D&D. Got really, really hype about it. Dove headfirst, balls deep into it, and said, "Hey, let's do a one shot." And I ran a one shot before I even actually played my first session, just randomly. At work, I had 3D printed stuff. I designed maps and printed them out because I had all the access to do all those things with the job that I had, and it was just a hot fucking mess. It was, I mean, I'd never even played, but it was a lot of fun. Everyone had fun. There were like 6 or 7 players. It was way too many. I didn't know enough, but we just got through it. Most of them were new players too, so they didn't know any better either. So we just kind of made shit up and we had a good time. But my first character, and actually the only character I think I've ever played, because I think I've only played like 11 sessions and I've DM'd maybe 60, was a druid, which I fucking love a druid. And
Most powerful class.
I have to say, I think one of the most fun to DM for is probably also a druid. I'll just say, I don't know if that's because I played one first and I know kind of more about it, or just the versatility with what they can do with the spell casting and with the wild shape, and maybe it's the additional bits of homebrew that are built into our world with the druid wild shaping
Yeah.
or raging and then wild shaping into something, and it's like, oh, I got to figure out how that mechanic works. But
Right.
druids are just, they're interesting.
Yeah. I like that. And on mine, before I have Robbie and
Xander,
Velvet
can I
go.
ask you a question?
Yes,
What would you feel your
absolutely.
answer would be to this?
On my answer to this, I have found some very interesting combos. Um, my favorite class to play is probably going to be I'd probably have to say a fighter, just because they can be very versatile and everything else, especially if you give them, gunslinger and stuff like that. Because not only, depending on the campaign as well, if you have guns or not, but fighter all around can be very versatile and stuff like that. Um, Now, one of my favorite combos I did make, and I love the way we did it, it kind of goes off of, what Solid was saying about, finding, character hanging out with this person for a while, learning some, healing stuff and stuff like that. The way we ended up doing Griffin, because Griffin is my very first character I ever made. Griffin is a barbarian monk, which I've had some people go, how does that even work together? But it actually works very well. And the way we did it is Griffin was a barbarian. Well, Griffin always drinks. That was his thing. He always drinks. Well, he ended up running into a monk master who ended up taking him under his wing and teaching him the ways of being a monk. So now he's a monk, barbarian. So now he has not only the fighting skills with his hands and everything, but he's got that strength of a barbarian. And he just leveled up recently. And one of the things I realized he could do with the monk barbarian is the fact that he can pretty much grapple somebody to death. Because with the monk now, he can grapple and do a 1d4, but in order to beat the saving throw to get out of the grapple, they have to beat a 33 to get out of it because of the strength of the barbarian. So in turn, if I keep them grappled, I do a 1d4 every turn and they can't really do anything other than try to get out of my grapple. So it's very interesting what you could do with random things and how things can come about. And, Griffin turned into something that is just honestly a little OP at times. Not to mention with the barbarian, he's a tank.
Monk Barb.
So, my favorite class so far that I've played is probably fighter, just because of what I could do with it. But the barbarian monk combo is very, very fun as well. Being I really haven't
Unarmoredness
seen
really works with each other.
what's that?
No, both of their unarmored strengths work are really synergetic with each other.
Yeah, they work very well together. So Ravi, favorite character or favorite class to play and favorite class to have in uh um as a DM.
So, my favorite class to play, so far, I love it. Is monk. I love my monks. They're fast for me. They're versatile. I love their subclasses. And for me, it's fun. I like playing that. A lot of my monks always usually kind of lean into more of that spiritual. A good friend. Tries to be a good friend with everybody and all that. So like it for me, it's nice. I love my monks, and that kind of goes into the same thing as what I like to have in my campaigns. Is there's actually two, or monks and bards, especially as enemies, or like maybe even a PvG, because I love how they pose uh in a certain way that might have to make the players think. You know, maybe they're not just going against one bard. Maybe it's a bard and maybe a group of enemies, and that bard keeps, kind of like a support character in the back, like where they keep poking the players, bardic inspiration, the enemies too, all that stuff, and they gotta have to think. Same thing with the monk. Monk, you can run across the battlefield. They are very, very, very nimble, very fast, and having that, like, maybe where, say you got like somebody who's just melee, they don't have range, and that monk just keeps coming in and poking that person and poking and then disengaging. So now they have to work with their other party members. They got to get their brains going of, okay, does somebody have something to hold this person in place so that they can actually deal with them. So I love using things like that to kind of produce some different things, because as much as I love to, it's not always fun just having a standoff where you just beat on each other, turn and turn. I like to throw a little bit of thinking, a little bit something new, a little bit of a curveball to my players.
A little stunning strike.
Yeah, yeah, it's stunning strike, man. That is players love it until it starts getting used against them.
All right. Velvet. What is your favorite class to play as a player and your favorite class to have in your campaign? Oh, you're muted, Velvet.
My favorite class to play is fighter. I like fighters. I like the way that you can build them. Depending on what the team's missing, they can fill a lot of niches. So, yeah. The one that I like to have as a DM is typically the warlock because there's just so much goddamn flavor built into that class naturally by having a patron. So there's already some sort of story built in there with an entity that you get to play as. It's like that's one of my favorite things is when someone picks a warlock is going like, let me know a little bit more about the your patron. What did you do? Like, why did you make this dark deal? Did you fuck up? Let's find out. And then just kind of building that relationship with that person and their patron. Because most of the time, most games I see, like people will have warlocks and they don't interact with their patron at all. Their patron's like a
Their
stepdad who
deals are so unexplored. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
patrons are just like they're like the father who showed up and then left to go get milk. When's dad coming back? I don't know. Um,
Oh, maybe someday.
but I like to play patrons who have active experiences. I don't like to run them like very like they're too much interaction. But I like there will be signs.
Yeah, I like that. Also, if you're watching like the chat and everything, being that, four of us have the knock feature going, stuff like that. If you see a question in chat, like Splash9 TV there was just wondering, can you be a Swordlock fighter in 5e or is multi-class not allowed? If you have the answer to that, that's a simple question. Go ahead. Also, they asked how close are Baldur's Gate 3 rules? Are they very different from normal 5e or are they close? You know, stuff like
Uh-huh.
that.
I'm
They're
answering.
close.
I'm answering
Oh,
as fast
go
as
for
I
it.
can. Oh, but I didn't. I was just talking to the first point.
Ah,
Multi-classing.
multi-classing. Okay, perfect.
Baldur's Gate, in
I
terms
mean,
of.
it's enough to give you a basic understanding of how the game works.
Mhm.
But then like if Baldur's Gate's your only experience,
There's a lot of items that give you stuff that you wouldn't
yeah,
normally get.
yeah,
Hmm.
Yeah.
and there's a lot
It's at
of
least a decent basis to start, but definitely read up on it and, read the rules of D&D and stuff like that and some
They
books if
also
you can.
have some like class features that they change little pieces on, stuff like that. It's not like a 1-to-1, but it's
Right.
it's close enough to kind of get you into it if you've never played D&D before.
A lot of the
Yeah.
subclasses are not in the. Well, okay, most of the subclasses are in the player's handbook, but like some are either in Xanthar's Guide, like the Spore Druid, which I think is Tasha's actually, or the some of the sorcery classes as well. But like everybody said, it is pretty much a good enough depiction of the game.
Wonderful. All right, so let's see here. We have one question that we had before, and one from Sarah, which I feel can kind of go together here. So I'm gonna go ahead and put Sarah's portion of the question in the chat for the voice chat there, trying to keep up with that and everything else. But the question is, how do you start building worlds, and where would you suggest someone start? And the other part of the question was, how do you make your maps? Which I think kind of go together there.
I have thoughts on this actually, about this specific thing because I've answered this question for actual like other DMs before who have asked me, and my advice is always the same. It's focus on the part that the players are going to be interacting. They don't need to know about like the greater politics of the world. They don't need to know about different worlds, different lands, whatever it is. All they need to know, or at least they need to start with, is what is happening in this town. What does this town look like? What does the surrounding area of this town like what does it look like? Focus on that. You can build out from there, but that's the most important place to start, where the characters are going to be.
Perfect. What um let's see here. So yeah,
Sorry, I think I
focus on
missed the
that.
question. What was the initial question? Is something about maps?
The initial question is so I am trying to remember to put the questions in our little voice chat up here, the text chat for the voice chat as well. But the question is, how do you start building worlds, and where would you suggest someone start? And also, kind of a question that goes with that: how do you make your maps, and kind of what you use? Welcome back, King.
Got it.
So, Velvet, before I move on, what do you use to make your maps?
You're
Muted again,
muted
buddy.
again.
Say it. Just say it.
Yeah. So Dungeon Draft, Incarnate. Incarnate's if for someone who's just like starting, I'd recommend Incarnate because it's free. And it is a amazing tool to start with, and you can do so much. And the thing that I actually like about them the most is that you can actually in Incarnate, if you're someone who's really good at like teaching themselves, you can actually get access to other people's maps and files, and you can piece together how they did their map, which is it has actually helped me a ton and has elevated my game. Hell, there's even like some of the maps you actually can look at are actually just tutorials to teach you specific things to do with a map, for like blending or like just trying to make things perfect. I learned so much about map making from Incarnate.
I think they stream
I-
on Wednesdays too, actually,
They do. And
tutorials.
Yeah, they're
it's
pretty sweet.
fantastic.
I was about to say because I use Incarnate too. That's where I started my map building. So like, if you want to, like, I'll do it. I'll look up the website and I'll drop it in chat if y'all are okay with it.
Yeah, go for
Yeah,
it.
100%.
It'll at least pop up in mine. So,
I've done a
Farnham, you got
couple.
something to add? Oh,
Go
what's
ahead.
up, Saul?
Oh, I've
Yeah.
actually done a couple just random streams where I'd sit and hang out and make a map in Incarnate. It takes a little bit to figure out, but it's pretty intuitive, and it's free. There are base level that are free, and you can pay for more if you want to build it. So if you're just beginning and you don't want to drop money into anything, you can just jump on it. Like, none of us are. I don't think any of us are sponsored by Incarnate. That's what we use.
Yeah,
Should we
that's
be so
what we-
lucky?
It's a
Maybe
great tool.
if y'all see, hit me up.
Yeah, exactly.
Incarnate, please.
Yes, right. Please, Incarnate. Dungeon Alchemist.
I also need to add like into that if you eventually do like really like it and you want to pay for it, I think it's like $25 a year, which is pretty affordable.
Oh shit, I
So,
might do that.
Yeah, it opens a lot of other resources, and even still, if you are someone who is artsy, you can create your own assets. You can draw your own tree, and then you can upload it, and then you can drop it in. I actually
Use it as
use
a
Incarnate
brush.
I use it for a lot more than just making maps. Like I use it for overlays and all kinds of other fun things. It's a pretty good art tool if you can learn how to utilize it that way. But that's what I got. Sorry.
Oh, all good. Fargrim? Oh, you were just back to muting, huh?
No, I was sorry.
Yeah. What do you have?
Okay, I guess I'll answer it. I also use Incarnate for world maps now, but I will definitely probably invest in it since it's like $25 a year, of course. But I mostly use Dungeon Alchemist for at least the 3D element for Theater of the Mind. I also do record walkthroughs of each map and have players watch the video up to a certain point with me so we all see the room together so I can explain it better. So it's not just me describing the room, but they have something visible that they can see besides the what they have in their mind. This has been very successful, even though I'm just madman switching through screens.
That's us all.
Yeah, right. It's a
Here's that
really
happening.
good utility, Dungeon Alchemist, because it helps me create the scene better in my head. Like, okay, this dagger is on this table for this reason. This book is here open to this page for this person, with so they get a higher perception check or investigation to see it. But also just physically building each building from scratch and is that's like my old man fishing or watching birds is building maps on Dungeon Alchemist. Very relaxing and very good tool. Eventually, when we switch to Foundry, I will use it for 2D and continue using it for 3D for Theater of the Mind and other situations like that.
Perfect. So it sounds like Incarnate is definitely a good one to start with, and it seems like a lot of the DMs here use that. Uh, and that's good to know. Adventure or Ghost? Well, Ghost is a bit different. Your maps are kind of already there with No Man's Sky, so yours is unless you have some input, absolutely. And then we've got adventures as well.
Well, Ghost,
Yeah,
how do
my
you sort of transpose your maps from NMS to, or I guess I don't, do you just use the maps from NMS, No Man's Sky, or do you sort of take them out of it and put it in a singular place? I'm interested to know.
Yeah, I do a
Yeah.
lot of man. I've tried a few things and I jump all over. Um, I've looked at a lot of like D&D map makers and I nothing like quite hits the notes that I need. That I mean, I haven't looked at all of them obviously. So what I ended up doing is I do a lot of you know pictures in No Man's Sky, putting that in Photoshop and using AI to edit it. I rely on AI a lot for like everything that I do with my sessions. Um, if there's a place that they go into, the whole drum that I beat during the game that I try to get my players' minds out of the box that is the game rules and into the idea that like you can do anything. They'll be like, it's too bad we can't blow up this space station, and I'm like, why not? Like you could totally do that if you could figure it out. Like do it. So when we do, you can attack certain NPCs in game. We've sort of figured out a system that you can do that. So we just take a lot of overhead pics. I splice them together in Photoshop, try to make somewhat of a, you know, unified view. And I use Miro. I don't know if you've heard of that before. I've used it a lot for like teaching, presentation, and stuff like that. I do like project management, so like I've used it for different projects as well. But it's a really great online tool that handles a lot of the processing for me. So I'll put the image and the grid in Miro, and then you can just drop any icon that you want, any additional GIF with transparency, and you can layer it and stuff like that. So it's probably doing a lot of extra work that one of those services is doing already. But that's just kind of how I've gotten to do it, and it works pretty well. All the players can log in and kind of move themselves around the map, or I do a lot of moving depending on what their situation is. Um, but as far as like the world building part of it, I've always like sort of written a bit and stuff. And coming to the lore of the game, um, you know, I like the idea of there's this expansive sandbox that we all live in. And the game itself is just, if anyone's never played it, it's just sort of like this open world exploration with all of these little different nuggets of things that you can do.
Infinite.
So the idea that we have is that if you take, you know, some characters that you've built, and actually one thing that doesn't have is like any sort of story that goes along with the individual characters. You're sort of like have one unified story. So taking that and sort of building stories around that was something I was really interested in. It just kind of drove me down this path a bit. But how I start all of my campaigns is like really trying to figure out like what's going to be the major conflict to pull people into where they have to go. Like what's going to be the motivating factor this season. It was this AI, which is actually was just our Discord AI. I just named something. Our AI got stolen, taken to this place, you know. And again, I do a lot with AI, actual AI. With that too, anything that happens in my sessions, I log into one prompt in ChatGPT, and I can refer to it whenever I want any clarity on anything. If I need a quick synopsis of something, I even use it for like video descriptions sometimes, just to like kind of give a vague description of something like that. It worked out really, really well. If I keep the same prompt, it remembers everything. And then if I need to remember anything, I can go back to it and it'll just kind of spit out the answer. It's been fantastic.
It's awesome.
Nice. Adventure. You're the last one here. Any input on this?
A little bit.
Go for it.
Yeah, I'm a big cartographer guy. I have I love maps. I fucking love maps. I have like a world map of just the Earth where like I can scratch off any place that I've been to. I have maps tattooed on me. Every one of my D&D characters has cartography tools, no matter what they do or are. I think just in sort of descending order or ascending order of like complexity, I think Incarnate is just fucking fantastic. It's for what it can do, for how free it is, for it's the perfect way to, if you're just DMing and you want to make a quick map and you want a lot of stuff to be able to do, Incarnate is fantastic. I think sort of like okay, I'm at Incarnate level. I think Wonder Draft is probably great right after Incarnate. Just you can have it auto generate landscapes for you, and then you could adjust the water levels just in the it's like a $25 program, and you can adjust the water levels, so like the land masses it makes can change based on their water levels, and then you can, there's so many options for brushes and tools and colors. You can download just like color packs of different palettes, and that's also very easy to get into, slightly above complexity in terms of how much stuff you have to do with Incarnate. I have a workflow that's just sort of evolved from my need for knowing where I am in the world. Like I even as a player, I require my DMs like, okay, what's this place look like? How what's its proximity to rivers? How far are the mountain? And then I'm making the maps for the DMs, like just as like to share so we can help everybody. But if it's a situation where like I can just make my own map, I use Asgar's map generator, because I think not a problem, but something that snobs like me have problems with are like land masses that like feel like, oh, this is too sharp of an edge. This is not a natural landmass formation. So I use like a generator. I'll put it in the chat. It's asgard.github.io. You can just click buttons and you can keep clicking and it'll generate and generate and generate and generate a map until you feel like it's sort of in the way you like it. You can generate like just an island map. You can choose peninsula. You just want a peninsula, or you just want one volcanic island. You want like a whole world. You want a whole shattered world where it's like a whole world of just islands. You can like sort of choose those, and then you can export those as a JPEG, and you can import those into Wonderdraft, and you can have those sort of organic looking land masses that you don't have to paint at all. You don't have to create. They're just there, and you have the ocean, and you can. Asgard's also allows you to set like the axial tilt of the Earth. So like the equator is where you choose to have it. You can set like how much rain there is on this Earth, the max and minimum temperatures on the Earth, and like it auto generates like the biomes, which I use to like. I feel like I'm just talking way too much, and this is just such
No, I'm actually learning a lot,
granular,
dude.
It's
stupid
like
information.
this thing is science as fuck.
You can just I
Look,
just
I was gonna say I'm looking at it right now. Like I'm sitting here messing around with it. As soon as you told me about that, I pulled it up and I'm loving it. I haven't even spent a full minute on it.
It does a lot more than like it does like it can generate like a world history and like faction. I'm like I don't want factions and like the world history generated for me, but I like the fact that and you can create like a 3D globe of the
That's
What?
you can. I think if you're making a map and you've you've gone through Incarnate and you've gone through just making your own in Wonderdraft, you get to Asgard's. What I just try to do is, okay, do these land masses look natural? Do they look kind of cool? Like when you look at a map, you can kind of tell like, oh, these are just a bunch of circles. Like, does this look like an interesting land mass? Does it like, oh, what is that over here? And you can just generate until it gives you something that looks interesting. And then you can sort of adjust the sliders of like, okay, at the poles, it's probably this cold, and in the equator, it's probably reaches this maximum heat. There's probably this amount of rain, and you can adjust it until it looks right in terms of just like there's a lot of diverse biospheres. Like we got some grassland here, we got some rainforest here, we got some tropical stuff here, we got some deciduous rain forest here. Like just generating random stuff. You can bring that if you all are still with me, which I don't really think you are. You can bring that into Wonderdraft. Just export a plain black and white version of it, import it into Wonderdraft. You can even adjust the water levels in Wonderdraft, but you can also export the biospheres. So like it has like where the plains are, where the equator is, where the rainforests are, like, and then what I've done, I have where the biospheres are, the real map in Wonderdraft on this screen, and I'm just like, okay, I'll paint that here, I'll paint that here. It has like where naturally the mountains will form. It has all of the rivers that also get exported into Wonderdraft, so you don't have to draw them or like draw water sources yourself. And I've been talking for way too long about this. I love maps, and then I use that. I finally paint it all up. I get the mountains ranges where they need to be. I get the forest. I paint them in, and it looks cool. I'm sorry, I spent a long time talking about that.
You're good, buddy. You're good. What? All right. So before we move on to the next question, though, you said all your characters have cartographer tools, and all I could think in my head was a barbarian trying to make a map and raging every time his pencil breaks.
That's probably why I've never made a barbarian. I've never played a barbarian.
He pulls out a crayon. He makes a little addition to his map, and then he eats it and moves on.
Got a character idea.
Right? Splash wants to know, can you doodle
I
on
make
paper,
a map
or is that a bad
just
idea?
reflects nothing of what the real world is. Yeah.
Can we have a
Right.
counter called Bardic Inspiration every time we get a new idea as DMs while we're doing this?
Where's my inspiration check there?
Right.
Get inspiration on this. But no, Splash9TV wants to know if it's a good or a bad idea to maybe doodle on paper and stuff like that for like your maps. Maybe start there at least.
Hell no.
I've actually seen somebody, what they did was super creative. What they did, they took an old piece of paper, and they spill coffee on it, and then they just kind of wait for it to dry and then outline it, and they were like, "Yep, this is my map," and it makes like a whole continent, and then they start kind of they'll trace it on a new piece of paper, and then start kind of outlining, making different borders and stuff like that. Like, it's wherever you want to start. If that's where you feel comfortable, maybe you're a little bit more artistically blessed than some of us. My stick figures look like they always get hit by a semi truck, which is why I use my computer for stuff. So like, there's nothing wrong with that. Landscape maps, they are not perfect. You're going to have curves, ridges, rivers wind, and they can suddenly cut right, whichever. you know it's nature, it's not man-made. If you want to do that, absolutely you can, especially if you're doing like an in-person D&D session. There's plenty of times where we pull out a whiteboard, put it on the table, draw it out real quickly, and then and that's our map. So there's different ways to make your maps, and that could possibly be one of them.
Yeah, and I like that. I like that. All right, so on to our next question. Let me find a good one for y'all. Let's see here. Ooh, how about this one? What is the hardest class in your campaign to DM for? Like, what do you find the hardest to deal with in your campaign for a class? Let's start with anybody want to specifically start, or do you want me to just start from the top?
I would have to. I'll start. I would have to say, not most like difficult, but most hardest track class to keep track of is my Imaru, the psionic soul knife and psi fighter multi-class combo. Beautiful, beautiful like combination, but quite overpowered. And to make items for it, like custom items that fit that character well with his story and his play style, because let's say Velvet or Ravi make the same combination, they're going to play them completely different. So that would have to be one of my most hardest to keep track of in my current campaign. My previous campaign was Alice's character, obviously, that murder hobo for players. She was a artificer wizard, so that was very interesting to both DM for and work creatively for, because artificers are very unique and you have to find a right place for them in your campaign, I think, personally. But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Who would like to go
I
next?
I
Robbie?
was about to say with the
Perfect.
popcorn. For me,
And then I got you, Velvet.
the nightmare class for me. I mean, I wouldn't say nightmare, but the ones that are hard to deal with for me are the high charisma. You know, you got your paladins, your bards, and that's because like there's one time where I had like 2 3 sessions lined up, ready to go for this. And basically they had to go talk to this bandit leader because he had an item that the party needed. And it was supposed to be they go do a few tests, like 2 3 sessions set up for this for them to get it. And my bard was like, no, I'm just gonna convince them, and just kept rolling high. And it got to the point where I'm like, I can't, like, he 2 3 sessions, we were like 3 hours into this session. I'm like, all right, well, we're gonna end it here because I got nothing to follow this up with. So I'll see y'all next week. um because I wasn't ready for him to convince them to be like, well, haggle, bargain, and convince them to hand over that item, just because they can't, they have that high charisma. They can talk things out, they bargain, they're a little bit easier with dealing with NPCs. So that's what kind of throws me through a loop, and often gets a makes me have to think on my feet.
Oh, you know what? I like that. Velvet, I know you said you wanted to go. Don't forget to unmute. I know how that is some days, buddy. I know how that is.
Yeah, that's fair. Um, all right. So right off the bat, I don't think there are any hard classes to DM for. It strictly comes down to difficult players. It- Saying that there's a class is difficult to run is, I feel like, is it's making an excuse for bad player behavior. Um, because like a class is just, it's just what the person's playing. Like, it's, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
sure, you can make an argument that I don't know, you don't have a lot of luck with like charisma, but if like someone's giving you like, if it's, you're getting a hard time out of something, it's not the class, it's the player.
Yeah.
The rogue in one of like so like one of the most common like D&D horror stories is like, or not not horror stories, but like one of the most common problems like people have with rogues is like stealing from other players. That's not a rogue problem. That's a player problem. The
Yeah.
rogue has nothing to do with that. They're just using it as an excuse to steal. If there was any class that was good at just naturally being stealthy, they would probably just steal anyway.
Yeah. Like that. Like that. And that's a good take on it. I mean, uh I could see in the long run, maybe the way like how a class is set up, if you're not really prepared for that, I could see how it could be difficult. But also in the end, it is a lot about, like you said, the player too. What are they doing that's making the class difficult to deal with as well? I could see that. Um, Solid, you got any input?
Um, I don't know that there's really just a class that's difficult. It's Classes are all pretty well defined, I guess, within reason. So it's more just the player playing the class that would be the issue. So
I agree.
kind of, I guess, someone trying to abuse a feature of a class in a way that's just too much, maybe. But um, in my experience, I've not really run into anything like that. So
Yeah, and see, that's especially, I wanted to ask this question for one main reason, is because sometimes people, get, the wrong idea about it, and they think when you start to DM, there could be classes that are just hard to deal with. And it's good to hear that in the end, like Fargrim said, there's some classes that just trying to keep up with everything for that class is what makes it difficult. Other than that, it sounds like it's usually just the player that can make that class difficult to deal with. Ghost, I know your classes are a bit different, but have you found any that are difficult to deal with, or is it more when it comes down to player?
Yeah, no, I tend to agree that it tends. Well, I haven't had any issues with class and players so far. There's been some instances where um, the potential, problem is on the view. Like potentially there could be an issue in the future as far as difficulty, not with the player per se. But I found that we have a really great group, just like going on Discord, just kind of talking it through, being like, hey, how do you feel about this? And just having that conversation, throwing the dialogue early, just to sort of mitigate anything from actually coming to a head. Like I said, great group of people. Everyone kind of is in on building this thing that we've started, so everyone's pretty open about kind of adjusting things as we've been going as well. So it's kind of worked out.
Nice. I like that. And something Robbie pointed out in chat, I'm sure most of you had seen it. Just it's nice to see the different perspectives of different DMs, and not only you know because each DM is different, but also the years of experience, the years DMing, the years as a player, and such like that. It's wonderful to see the different perspectives on it and stuff like that. Um, Now, my next question, maybe I'll have.
Did I already answer this question?
Uh, I don't know. Did you? Maybe not. Let's have
I
you
don't
answer
think
that though.
you did.
Just real quick.
Yeah.
I think not necessarily a class, maybe like a build that is difficult.
Yeah.
There's a just as a DM, there's a like Vengeance Paladin with Sentinel and Polearm Master feats. That's a difficult thing to deal with because he's just anything within 10 feet is stopping his movement, and anything going out of his movement, he's stopping. And that's, you have to, I mean, it's not impossible, but you have to sort of DM around it. Portent Wizard who can change your roles as DM and say, oh, no, you're actually, your big boss enemy did not succeed. He actually failed that, so here, take this one. But that's not like it. You said the most difficult, so it's not the most annoying, because I find that those can actually lead to interesting sort of gameplay
Interesting
elements.
interactions and stuff.
Yeah, but
And
those are the most like you gotta plan around for, like paladins with Polearm Master and Sentinels. Like,
I like that. Now, this next question I'm going to put in here is going to kind of be another two-parter, a couple questions together, but they go perfectly together. It is, what do you think about homebrew stuff, and do you do it in your campaigns? And what was this says favorite homebrew monster, but we'll go with favorite homebrew item, monster, anything like that. What is your favorite if you do homebrew, and how do you feel about homebrew stuff? You know what? This one I'm gonna start off over with Solid on this one.
Oh geez, I mean it's pretty much all homebrew. They made their characters based off, I guess the right term is species and classes, just from the books, and just how it all operates is, yeah, gooch knuckles. Um, it all operates under the same mechanics, but the world is homebrew. A lot of their items, as we move through, I'm just like, let's make something up. Let's instead
Yeah.
of giving them this random thing that's on a in the DM's guide on a roll table, let's make something up that's got some spice to it somehow. Uh,
Right.
I think there's this pearl or something that they can put in water and it makes the water cold. I mean, it doesn't really do anything all that crazy, but it's homebrew. Or I mean, the tomes themselves that like give them these as they progress and do things and use certain features and traits of these homebrew items. I try to build them to where they grow. They
Yeah.
use this feature this many times, or this situation happens specifically. Uh, it unlocks this next thing, or it changes the cooldown on something. You can use this once a week. And the more you use it, it's a couple times a week, and then every day. It gives me time to figure out how to make this work every adventure day, um, potentially. But um, like the tomes themselves, there's so much with them that I'm still kind of juggling them, figuring them out. But I started in homebrew because I was like, there's just this vast wealth, depth of knowledge across literally everywhere, books, internet. I can't absorb all of this in time to do what I want to do. So I'm going to right reasons to why they're not there
Mm.
that are still open enough that if I need to bring them in, like I feel like in this campaign I've started bringing some of the gods back in here and there. Where when I began over a year ago, like I didn't know enough about each of them or have the time to really research them like I wanted to because I want to
Yeah.
have all this. I want to cram all of this in my brain, but I didn't have the time to do that. So let's just create a way to where they're not there, and it's just all in being creative with it. It can all still
Yeah.
exist. None of it can exist. It's all in how you write it. You can bring it.
Exactly. Now, do you have a favorite homebrew item you've made or favorite homebrew monster?
Mm, that's hard. I'd probably just say the tomes themselves because each of them are so different and intricate. They're
Nice.
layers
I like
in
it.
all of them. They're all MacGuffins in a way, I guess.
And I'll ask you next year because I'm sure you'll have a new one.
Yeah, oh, it'll change. It'll definitely change. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. You know what? Velvet. What do you've got?
Mute.
Every fucking time, right? That's goddamn it. I think when it comes down to like my favorite, I mean, all my favorite homebrew monsters are the ones that I made myself. So, uh, I know that's not like much of an answer as far as like items though. Oh god, I don't have like I actually know. Okay, my favorite items are the most. My favorite homebrew items are like the most like useless stuff. It's the stuff that came up as far as like flavor.
Mm-hmm.
Like a pan of endless grease. It's just a magical nonstick
Yeah.
pan. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what is it? Like a little thing that gives you like a little toy like bird that gives you your daily affirmations. Except this one is defective and it actually tells you how you're going to die that day. It's
Oh.
never right, but that's what it keeps doing.
In the beginning, I was like, "Are you just saying things that I need?" And I was like, "Nope, no,
One
you're
day it
not."
just messes with you and just sits up on a tree and just points right at you.
It's like a little toy. It's like a little wooden bird. It's a wizard would keep it on their desk and just like oh hey yeah, give me some motivational thing. And it's like oh you're going to die. Well this one's broken. Um, stuff like that. Make a cape that billows for no reason.
Just always waving in the wind, no matter if there's wind or not.
Exactly. Like, oh, I see you paid for that billowing enchantment, but you couldn't pay to, get a decent education, you cheap ass wizard.
Oh, that's great. All right. Adventure. What do you got for us on homebrew? How do you feel about it? Do you do it? And what do you got for your favorite?
I do it to varying extents. I mean, there's homebrew rules. Like, I know Solid 10 does like a, which I prescribe to, is like a bonus action potion taking, and you can use a bonus action to take a potion, and that's you can use a bonus action to take a potion. You have to roll for it. Full action, you get the full. Just don't have to roll for it. I prescribe to those. There's minutia, there's granular stuff like I mean homebrew house rules that I like besides the ones I mentioned. I let my players sometimes barter with me in terms of their skills. Like if they're in a really tight spot, we'll just say cleric. I will. You can take a channel divinity from me, and because I want to do this thing, and I'll say, how impactful is this thing that you want to do? How impactful is stealing this channel divinity from you? Is it your last channel divinity? Okay, it's your last one. And this thing you want to do is kind of okay, maybe, and so we can kind of work that out narratively. I think I really like homebrew. I think it oftentimes, if you use it like kind of discernibly, it can fix a lot of the things that are broken with D&D, especially in terms of like exploration and just character interaction. Did we get to a part? Did you ask, or was it asked, what like our favorite homebrew like enemy is?
Enemy, monster. It could be your favorite homebrew. Anything.
I have one, and I'm waiting for my current party to get to it. And I'm not gonna say when, just in case they watch this. I probably shouldn't even say this. A false hydra. I love a false hydra.
Ooh.
I've never encountered a false hydra. I've never ran a false hydra. But just you don't. A part of a false hydra is you don't know it's there. It can alter your memories so you don't know it's even there. So it's like this stuff is happening to you, and you just sort of your mind makes it make sense, and you just how did he die? Like this, and your mind just builds the sense around it. And if you hear its song, like you just rationalize that yeah, this happened because of this. And to me that is so terrifying that there's this being that can do this to you and you can potentially not know it. And if there's character art for it, that is just terrifying as well. And that's my favorite like homebrew non 5e sanctioned being. But yeah, I just overall homebrew, if you're discernible about it and you're not, I mean, there's a lot of homebrew that's just OP, like to be honest, and it's just kind of like wish fulfillment stuff. But if you can, as a DM, you kind of know like the upper and lower limits of stuff. Like a lot of 5e D&D can be cookie cutter and just kind of okay, cool, modifier to that, modifier to this. But like, there's like even like what I'm sure all of you've heard is like Griffin Saddlebag. That's all homebrew stuff. But there's some times where it's like a cool interaction or a cool rider effect that is not necessarily something that would be a part of a normal item, but doesn't really impact the game. But speaking to like Velvet, like the flavor, like anything that adds flavor, but not necessarily like fucks with just how powerful somebody is. Flavor is anytime you can add flavor, but not just make something OP. It's always welcome.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Let's see here. Has anybody not answered the question that would like to? Ravi and Fargrim? Okay. I did see in our messages from Solid and Ghost. Do you have time for the rest of the question, or?
I'll hang out for the rest of the question. Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds
Perfect,
good.
perfect.
I'm curious.
I know.
I love
Yeah,
homebrew. It's my favorite.
exactly. All right, we'll
Yeah.
start with Ravi, and then we'll get to Fargrim on that, if that works for you, Fargrim.
So, I do agree with like Velvet and Adventure, like flavor. That's like the majority of my homebrew stuff is flavor. I love homebrew. I love, not usually sticking to the norms, and it adds, a little bit of spice to things. It adds flavor. My favorite um my favorite homebrew, it would be a monster, not technically a monster. It's non-combative. It's nothing that could damage you or anything like that. I call it the hug slug. I found character art of it one day. It's somebody made a homebrew. They had a stat block, and I'm like, I don't want this to be that. It's a hug slug. So if you guys ever seen Monty Python, you know how the rabbit just launches itself towards their like the knight's necks and stuff like that. It's kind of like that, but instead of biting them, it just hugs them. So this thing just kind of flies out of nowhere and just hugs just a random party member, and it comes out of nowhere. That's just I like it. It kind of if you're maybe having a little bit of like a boring, you need a little bit of filler or something like that, kind of perk the
Like a
players
face
up.
hugger. Like a face hugger.
Yeah, yeah. He flies out of nowhere, hugs them for a good minute, and then he just leaves. That's all he does.
Implants love in their tummy.
That will later
So
be
if you can
bursting
look
out
up,
with love.
You feel warm.
you can look up character art. It's a very cute creature. Now, like I said, it's got a step, but for me, I like him just to fly out of nowhere, just hug a random party member, and then just be on his way. And he's been in one of my campaigns and one of my one shots, and I will continue to use him to randomly pop up on players, just to have a little bit of fun.
Kind of like in a horror movie where like the scene's tense and then a cat just goes wow, and then
Yeah,
yeah.
just there is no warning except for just it coming flying at you like a missile, just immediately. And they could throw a dexterity throw to see if they dodge it, but he's gonna go right to another party member.
Love it. Flavor,
Fargrim.
baby.
Well, I have made. So I like making monsters more than I like make. Well, okay, I like making items more than I like making monsters. But let's say my favorite item would have to be Alice's first gun from my first campaign. It was a revolving rifle, so it would have has like 6 barrels. All of the materials she has found, or that character found during their adventures to that point, like different dragon scales, different dragon bones, cool ore that was in the side of mountains or different caves that they crawled through. Just watching the character build this piece by piece and having the resources to be able to pay for it was really awesome. So it was very rewarding to give that object to that player. As for creatures, so far the aliens that I created for this campaign have been pretty interesting, but I've been spicing them up since, well, my players are constantly growing as they should. But my first creature I've ever made was a squid that would project illusion of an island out in the ocean. And similarly to the fish that lures people in to eat it, so this pretty much creates an illusion of a beach. And when people would step up onto it, it would suck them in like the illusion of quicksand. But their armor would deteriorate over turns and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I'm very
You know,
interested in. yours
Yes.
and Ghost's answer, just because I imagine there'd be a lot more potential homebrew in Ghosts and Fargrims.
Well, there's more homebrew. Like, we made an airship. We, at least, well, my sorceress and my wizard both have Dragonbone custom items. The wizard has actually, no, the wizard. Well, both my spellcasters have 2 specialty items. The wizard hat has identify, and also could be used as arcane focus. There's also level progression to that as well. Like, at a level, she unlocks this ability through her hat. Like, it vibrates. Like you know how certain hats have buckles or emblems. It vibrates when there's an undead or lycanthropy in the area. Or the wizard staff. After she casts a spell with it, she can use fly as a free action for instead of her movement for that turn. Let's see here. Both the Carl's gun and Imaru's gun are both homebrew. Imaru's gun is based off of a Far Cry 6 gun, which once the projectile is shot, there is a 1d4 -1 turn counter. And depending on, let's say, if it has plate armor, different augments in his skin, like the aliens have metal implants, things like that, causes the more damage to happen to the explosion, depending on the shrapnel, so to speak. As for homebrew rules, like if you use Shocking Grasp in water or someone that's wearing full plate, electricity sucks. Also, I add in all of the religions, but most of my players are not like religious, at least in this campaign. One of them is seeking faith, but that's an interesting story because I can't divulge too much information because they're still learning about their life because that player has amnesia. Well, both player and player character. So
Perfect.
I could add more homebrew, but I'm just trying to balance everything out. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Ghost. How is homebrew in your stuff?
It's, geez, that's a good question. It's all a little bit, and all kind of not in a way. Like a lot. It's like,
Are you transposing a lot? Like this is
yeah,
this thing.
and
This like a sword would do this, but like a laser sword would do the same thing, but it's just a laser sword or something.
yeah, it's trying to like rewrite it to make sense in the world that the players are playing in. So there's some things that we just like straight up ignore. Some like we don't do any multi-classing as of now, just because it was way too much to wrap my brain around. All of our character sheets are on my website. It's sort of like a very similar to like D&D Beyond in in how I want it to end up, but it's not there yet. Just so that we can kind of keep track of everything and they can kind of change things as they want as well. Um, so where the direct transposition starts and homebrew begins is kind of questionable. What I can say is that one of my favorite things that we've come up with so far was a monster, and it was this sort of gelatinous beast that I envisioned was like this experiment on this derelict freighter that the crew went into, and basically it absorbed all of the biological matter of the crew and brought its mass into itself, you know. And how it did that was sort of like up in question. I think they kind of felt like they had the answer pretty quick, but they found a survivor who had been infected, and they brought him back to their own ship. And that survivor ended up becoming a puddle while in captivity. And they were so sure that that puddle was something, that there was something more to that puddle. They spent just so much time poking the puddle trying to figure out what it was I was trying to like get them to do, and it was hilarious for
Poking
me.
it with a stick.
Yeah, throwing food trays at it and stuff. It's a great time. Stuff like that. I love the chaos that our situation kind of brings, and I let them sit in it for a while a lot, just to see where it could go. Because every session, I have like an overview for my campaign of like what the big names in the background are doing, but I take that overview and I rewrite it after every session based on what those characters have decided to see if it's going to sway how the story ultimately changes. I let them, whenever there's anything chaotic going on, I just like straight up let them do it. Um, there's a lot of stuff I hope happens, obviously, much like I'm sure it's the same with all of you. But yeah, as far as favorites, that was my favorite situation from a monster. Um, but it's everything is a little bit homebrew with what we're doing.
I like that. I like that. And it throws a whole different, meaning to homebrew with yours,
Yeah,
especially
it's like the
being,
Wild West.
yeah.
It's I don't know what's going on half the time, and hopefully somebody does. I don't know. So,
Somebody does.
yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, we'll wrap that. I think that's everybody's answer on that and everything. I think I got everybody on that one. But we'll wrap that question up there. I know Solid and Ghost said they had to head out. Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, that's not bad. Solid 2, almost 3 hours.
Yeah, almost a full 3 hours. Now, I know Solid and Ghost are heading out. Do we want to wrap the whole Q&A up here, or do we want to continue afterwards? That's up to the rest of you all.
How much we got? How much we got left? What's
I've got plenty more questions if we want to get to them. If not, we can save it for another time.
I mean, I do like their inputs. Like I said, it's really nice having this many different perspectives, experiences, all that stuff coming to the table. So like I'm okay with continuing. I would just prefer to have everybody here for it though.
Well, Nero says do a second episode. We can always plan
With
if y'all are up for it.
You want to do a part 2?
Do a second Q&A. I like that.
For Neuro.
Yes.
Second half.
Yeah.
We'll actually invite Bug if that's cool with scheduling. How does that sound?
Yeah, I think
we need a
I think Bug would be great.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It would be very wonderful.
And we'll probably have probably more questions. Xander, how many do we have left that we haven't went through?
Hold on. Let me check what I've put in chat. I know I've missed
all right,
a couple
quick question
there,
for
but,
Solid before he leaves. Solid. What's one thing that you have learned from knowing each other? Like watching each other. Like watching my campaign or just knowing each other. If there's anything that you've learned.
I also have a question for Solid.
You guys. Wait,
I now have a question for Solid.
Oh God!
Damn it!
This man's gotta go.
What have I learned? Brain and mashed potatoes. Thank you. Let's see. What
You're
have
welcome.
I learned? Catch me out on the spot. This is one of those questions you should have told me beforehand so I could prepare and think about it a little bit. This is like, all right, let me roll a dice real quick and see.
I like that.
16's not bad.
I have an answer.
Nice.
Go ahead, AA. I'll think.
What have I learned from Fargrim the Barbarian Grim? I thought this endeavor was sort of. I initially started with trying to have a good D&D game, and then everything else, who gives a fuck? Like, good presentation, good map, just looks great. Stream looks good, and then I didn't pay attention to anything else. I think it's the more of like the reaching out to people and saying, "Hey, we got this little stream over here if you guys wanna," but then kind of feeling like a weirdo for like almost feeling like I'm profiteering. Like, "Hey, come look at this. I'm not gonna just look at my stuff. Who cares about your?" Like, I felt like even if I said anything about my
I'm Mr.
stuff,
Meeseeks, look at me.
Yeah, Meeseeks. Yeah. But from Fargrim, I learned there's a way, like a third way, to just sort of hang out and be like, "Hey, what's up? How's it going?" I mean, if you want to, if you don't, whatever. NBD. And I think that's something that I have not focused on, and I would also extend that to John Solid 10. I'm not a good networker. if you didn't catch that, I'm not good at networking.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
And that's what we're here for, you know. That's what this whole thing about. And you know, when me and Fargrim made the Discord for D&D and everything, it wasn't just for our D&D. It was to help just DMs and stuff network with each other, and not only find other DMs to talk with, but also to find players for their campaign. That way you can, you know, you could sometimes get fresh blood in there, some new people to, you know, maybe, you know, change things up a bit for you, or teach you something new, or, you know, you learned something new because you had to figure something out from what somebody new did.
Congratulations,
you know,
socialize now.
you have to socialize now. And you know, and that's the biggest part, just helping each other out, you know, and being there to support each other. And that's what we wanted to do with the whole thing. And just to let you know, with the questions added, what we've been through, we still have about 24 questions.
I think we can crank that out in the next 10 minutes. We can handle that.
Right?
Speedrun.
No,
Yeah,
I think
everybody grab a
this
question.
is a two-parter. I think this might be a two-parter.
I like that idea, though. It's been a great session, and I'd rather make it a two-parter than try to just gloss over questions, and people really don't get an answer.
No. We could just all grab a couple questions and all talk at once. They just got to pick out the ones that they want to hear.
No, but I feel like if we do that, we also have to talk very loud. Or louder than the other.
Everybody just starts talking progressively louder at the, you know, trying to talk over.
I hate players who talk loud. Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
There's
that. You know what? That is a good
screaming
idea.
in the background.
Loud noises.
That would be from Ravi.
So,
Yeah.
what date works for a part 2?
I saw chat. Hey, chat. What date works for a part 2 for
Right.
you?
I'll
It's
have to
not
check what I've got
tomorrow
going
for
on.
me.
Yeah, I'll have to see what I've got going on. I got a lot going on right now.
Yeah. We can, you know,
Same
it doesn't
here.
have to be in the next couple days. It could
Right.
be, you know, if we have to wait, you know, even a couple weeks, that's all right. You know, we can get it in the Discord and get and get everyone's, you know, time frame and everything. Does Sundays work pretty good for everybody?
I think generally, yeah. I think
Yeah.
there's some caveats.
I think we're doing session 0 next Sunday for a one shot.
And
Yeah,
we're running,
can't wait.
We're running, this next weekend is probably. I mean,
Yeah, we need to talk
a lot
on the side.
Yeah, a lot of side
A lot of DMs. It's hard to scheduling gets difficult.
It is.
Because we all.
It does.
I mean, Fargrim's, you're running what, 3 a week? Like that's
Yeah.
something like I want to do. Like I need the time to do that. How do you do that?
So that's
children.
actually a question for next time.
The same amount of attention for me as any other child, and
yeah, we'll grind it out and I
do want to finish this. I do want to finish this at some point, even if it's November, early November.
Let's shoot for early November. How does that sound?
I like that.
Bug
Fargrim.
is of course invited.
Yes.
Fargrim and Xander. I really hope Alice is in chat, because if not, her ears must be burning. How many times have we brought her up?
Literally.
I thought we
So she was in my chat. She was
brought
just
up
like,
negatively, right?
she was like, you know, I can hear you, right? And I was just like, well, part of
That's
that
what
was
she
a
did.
lie.
She did.
She was just like, yeah, fair. And I was like, 2 DMs know of your true crimes.
Alice, I believe you can grow and you can be better.
Welcome to Dateline. DM Dateline. Crimes
But
after
solid,
dark.
Ghost, Adventures Anonymous, Velvet, Ravi. Thanks everybody for making the time for this.
Yeah.
This
thank you
is
all.
Yes.
was fantastic.
Thank you. I do hope I have been a good host for this, and you all have enjoyed
Fantastic.
Yeah, great host.
it. Thank you.
That Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
And thank all of you for being here. Absolutely.
Before we
Thank you.
end, if any of you have any announcements or things you'd like to share before you leave, like solid hitting over 200, things like that.
Hype.
Let's
If
go.
you want to drop your normal play dates, you can. Let's end this with a bang. A little self
Solid
promo.
just hit over 200 followers on Twitch. And
That
to
was
that
that was
end,
Friday. Like
Mm-hmm.
shit happened Friday. That was intense.
Mhm.
That was.
And we are also running a collaborative Halloween spooky D&D game that's very like a murder mystery type thing with Solid 10 D&D.
So hyped.
It's oh my god, I'm confusing your collab with ours. I think on the 25th.
We're both collabing. There's like
on
double
the
collab going on.
25th, Bug, who is a player in Solid 10 D&D, is DMing this collab, and John, or Mr. Solid D&D and himself, is just handling the technical things. But we're Adventures Anonymous and be playing it, mixed with, I imagine, some Solid D&D folk.
Yeah, there's Fallout Faith. Bug is DMing. Fargrim is playing, and doesn't Drone play with you? Fargrim?
Yes. Jonah's one of my
Yeah.
players. So two
So
from
Good.
our Raven tribe up in there.
Try collaboration.
Yep.
Yeah,
Also,
and it's
Nero says you guys are awesome, and thank you.
Nero.
I have a quick question for Ghost. Ghost, do you plan on? Because again, like I'm super interested in your No Man's Sky and all that. Are you planning on like releasing, like a module for it into the wild? Maybe some other people can do their own No Man's Sky campaign and stuff like that, or is that something you've thought of?
Yeah, I've thought of it quite a bit lately. You know, before we started all of this, I got with some folks over at the Galactic Hub Discord about how to do this, and they had all played a lot more D&D than I had. So when we started talking about what this would look like, and as they kind of started hashing things out, I was like, they are the better hands that lead us, and I just kind of gracefully bow down. And then a different playthrough sort of built into this. But now that we're kind of building it out more, I think I'd love to see other people play this game type on their own with their own stories. And there's definitely a way for them to do that with my website. I just need to get everything like fully hashed out. Like currently we're kind of like cobblestoning it together as we go. So we just went on break, and in this break, my plan is to like I'm doing a text-based like in between chapters sort of thing for them. Like they're all stuck on their ships right now, and I'm gonna do have a little fun with that on the website. But I'm also planning on like building out like what the classes actually look like, finding direct translation for all these classes, building out the backstories. We haven't even gotten into feats really, anything like that. So there's a lot of work to be done, and I don't think I need to be the one to do it all by any means. But I want to get to a point where at least some of it's kind of figured out, and then let people join, DM, whatever. I would love to not be the DM for what we're doing. Even like Alice came by and DM'd the last official session, and I played it, and I had a blast. You know?
That
So
was
I would
an
love
awesome
for that to be
session.
something that happens.
Yeah, so
All right.
the plans are to release a module for other people to pick up and maybe, you know, run their own thing with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have a lot of work to do, but
that's something to
All
look forward
right.
to, though.
That it is. That it is. I am going to have us call it here. Otherwise, we're going to continue this, and nobody's going to get anywhere because we're going to just keep bouncing off of each other's questions.
Yeah.
So, everybody, it has been absolutely excellent having you, every one of you here. You're all amazing DMs, and I would love to see some more of your campaigns and where things go, and just the things you end up creating. We've got plenty more questions, so we will get together. We will start our next, set up our next day for another Q&A for a session 2 of this, because we made so many questions, and the answers we got were absolutely amazing and actually, thought out and everything. Even though they are kind of, thrown out there to you, you actually took some time to think about it and gave good, actually wonderful answers to them. So let's wrap this up here. You guys are wonderful, and we will see you all later. And I can't wait for the next one. Everybody says
Okay.
bye.
Great stream,
Guys.
everyone.
Have a good one.
Goodbyes forever.
bye.
Goodbyes.
Actually.